5 pro-Houthi fighters and 20 pro-Houthi fighters. Several airstrikes were reported on Tuesday. The Houthis were mostly killed in airstrikes, as were the civilians, while the Houthi fighters, dubbed mercenaries by pro-Houthi outlets, were killed in an ambush at one of their military camps by Houthi forces backed by the Yemeni military. The camp was apparently set as a trap with explosives planted around the area and tents abandoned. They quickly moved against the invading Houthi forces, detonating explosives and quickly routing them. Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system and to fully capitalize on that decision in their fundraising efforts. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com. UPI reports Senator Ted Cruz from Texas said he plans to draft legislation barring Syrian Muslim refugees from entering the United States amid reports that one of the attackers in Paris may have posed as a migrant. While campaigning in Charleston, South Carolina on Monday, the Republican presidential candidate restated his belief that Muslim refugees should settle in primarily Muslim countries, while Syrian Christians should be welcome in the United States. He said the Christian refugees pose no meaningful risk of committing acts of terrorism. Cruz offered no specifics or timetable for his plans to introduce the legislation in Congress. His comments came in the wake of shootings and explosions last week in Paris, for which the Islamic State has claimed responsibility. The attacks Friday killed at least 129 people and reawakened a global urgency to stop terrorism. Speaking on Monday at the G20 summit in Antalya, Turkey, President Obama said allowing migrants into the United States based on their religion was shameful. Since the incident in Paris, 27 governors of U.S. states have declared their opposition to settling Syrian refugees in their states. All but one of the governors are Republican. Alabama Governor Robert Bentley was one of the first to make such an announcement on Sunday. Other governors used social media or formal letters to the White House to make their position clear. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. Reuters reports Seattle Mayor Ed Murray signed an ordinance into law on Tuesday that he says will add 6,000 living units for low-income residents over the next decade to be paid for by fees on private developers. The measure aims to address an overheated real estate market fueled partly by the growth of Seattle-based internet retailer Amazon.com and other companies, which is pricing out low- and middle-income residents. The new ordinance, part of a set of proposals that could add 20,000 units of affordable housing over 10 years, will provide 6,000 units paid for by private residential and commercial developers, according to the mayor. The law imposes a special fee on commercial development ranging from $5 to $17 per square foot based on a building size and location. A separate resolution passed by the city council requires up to 8% of multifamily dwellings to be set aside for residents earning no more than 60% of the area's median income. Alternatively, developers could pay a fee to help finance off-site affordable housing. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
Well, today was an historic occasion in Pennington.
That's right, Diane. The entire town turned out to honor Paul Webster, the area's one gay man, with Pennington's first ever Gay Pride Parade. Paul, a 33-year-old hardware store owner, was too shy to ask for a parade, but that didn't stop almost 2,000 residents from showing their support for his homosexuality. Mayor Sue Hallinan organized the parade and even chipped in some of her own money to pay for decorations.
Well, I was channel surfing one day and I came across a program about the Gay Pride. Next time I went to the hardware store, I said, Paul, we're going to throw you a parade. And he just said, oh, please don't do that. I don't want that. I beg you. He just didn't want us to go to the trouble.
He doesn't want to ride on the penis float. He gets motion sickness, so we're going to have him hold the reins instead.
And Pennictonians have already decided on a fairy tale theme for next year's parade.
Oh, that'll be great.
And if Paul has a boyfriend, they can both be dressed up as kings.
Terrific idea.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. And, of course, you're welcome to join us here. We'll give you our toll-free numbers, and you can share your thoughts with us on whatever topic happens to be on your mind. Joining you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Tarrin P. Lupo.
And Mark.
And you can join us online at freetalklive.com. We got a lot of features on our site. We give them away to you. Those other talk show hosts out there will charge you for their websites, so please enjoy ours at, once again, freetalklive.com. Now, last night on the program, Conan and I got into this article by Lew Rockwell. And Lew Rockwell is a well-known libertarian. Amongst the libertarian movement, he's well-known. Outside of the libertarian movement, I don't know. He's got a pretty big website, lewrockwell.com. It's L-E-W Rockwell.com. And it's arguably the number one libertarian site on the internet. I mean, it's up there.
Yep.
And so, when Lew Rockwell says something, a lot of people pay attention to what it is that he's saying. And it's a lengthy piece. We got into a good chunk of it last night. It's about libertarians and immigration. The article is headlined, Open Borders, a Libertarian Reappraisal. So, in the beginning of this piece, and throughout the portion of it, the good chunk of it that we got into, probably like the first third of the article, he outlines that libertarians ultimately support the idea of private property, and that in private property, one should be able to set whatever rules one wants to. So if you want to exclude someone from that private property, whether that person is your mother-in-law that you don't like, or whether it's somebody from some other part of the world for whatever reason that you don't want there, you should be able to make those choices. And the rest of us should be able to make choices in regards to the choices you've made. So if you are someone who, let's say you're a cake maker and you want to discriminate against gay people, and as far as
you don't want to make cakes for gay weddings.
For their wedding, well, I don't want to buy a cake from you, because I would rather buy a cake from someone who isn't discriminating against gay people.
I don't know that I would be quite as hard line on it. It would depend on how I, felt about the person and my experience with them. But it'd be a mark against them if they're like not willing.
If you didn't know the person and all you knew about them was that they were the anti-gay bakery, would you really consider it as a location?
Be less likely that I'd go knock on their door in the first place.
I'd cross them off my list.
But I know some really good sort of devout Christians that would probably be unwilling to make a cake for a gay wedding that I am not willing to exclude from my life simply because of that fact.
Yeah, sure. I didn't say you would ostracize them completely if you happen to know the person.
Just saying.
It's still kind of a hard thing with business that you have to hide your personal life or it costs you business, especially someone with our views, that are kind of outspoken. It definitely hurt my practice when I let libertarian stuff in, but it's who you are, and it's hard to hide. I don't want to hide it. So there's a cost to it. There's, how much can you really be out? Or you got to find a profession like you guys that actually you don't have to hide anything. You get paid for
We've
doing
been punished
this,
too, though, right?
Oh, no, you've lost radio
stations. We've lost advertisers.
For sticking to your guns on stuff, for sure.
Right, for being anti-war, for instance. That's hurt us a lot.
I think there's a big cost. There's a cost to it, but you also got to live with yourself. So
right.
Man, that's a tough rope to walk. I don't know how to.
It's not a hard rope for me. I mean, it's just if you want to live with yourself.
It's tough when you're starving. I mean,
no, I got you there. I got you.
But when you're not making a lot of money, you're like, well, how hard do I want to hit this issue? And then
sure. But on the other hand, there's always work out there.
That's true.
No one's starving in America.
You can sling burgers for sure.
Some people might not have all the food they want, but nobody's really starving in the United
there's really
States.
no such thing as. I hate to say it, but honestly. Compared to other countries, no one's really poor in this country. If you wanted, you could get, a place paid for by the government. You could get, your children's insurance by the government. You could get welfare. You could get, a HUD house. You can get all these things, and that's considered a poor standard. And it's like, what are you talking about? You have cable TV and a cell phone.
I've seen the numbers as high as $60,000 that a single woman can bring in government benefits. Now, I haven't delved too deep in it, but
I wouldn't doubt that with medical. No doubt with medical. If you had 2 or 3 kids and you were taking them for all these visits all the time, which they do, I wouldn't doubt that at all.
So there you go.
So, that's what I'm saying.
I don't begrudge.
It's relevant.
Yeah.
This country really, there's no such thing as completely poor.
So regarding,
we are the 1%.
Mm-hmm.
So regarding welfare, I mean, that's certainly one of the objections behind immigration. Immigration, obviously a hot topic right now, more so than ever, with the issue of the Syrian refugees coming here and some governors around the country rejecting them. And Lew Rockwell is looking at just the larger issue of immigration, not specifically the Syrians, but just the question of being a libertarian and your views on immigration. He's questioning the idea that libertarians are necessarily or should necessarily be for open borders. That's sort of the gist of his piece, which I will continue here. Again, we're jumping into this, so just kind of recapping for those of you just tuning in. He's pointing out that libertarians are in favor of private property, and there's a problem, and that problem is public property, because that public property is, government-owned. And the government just simply arbitrarily makes decisions about who can use that public property, which would mean that all kinds of people who you might not otherwise want to can get to your private property via that government's private property, or the government's public property, if you follow me there. So he's citing a couple of his favorite thinkers. That would be Murray Rothbard and, Hans Hermann Hoppe. He says it's rather unfashionable to express concern for the rights of property owners, but whether the principle is popular or not, a transaction between 2 people should not occur unless both of those people want it to. This is the very core of libertarian principle. In order to make sense of all this and reach the appropriate libertarian conclusion, we have to look more closely at what public property really is and who, if anyone, can be said to be its true owner. Now, Hans Hermann Hoppe has devoted some of his work to precisely this question. There are 2 positions we must reject: that public property is owned by the government, or that public property is unowned and is therefore comparable to land in the state of nature before individual property titles to particular parcels of land have been established. Certainly, we cannot say public property is owned by the government, since government may not legitimately own anything. Government acquires its property by force, usually via the intermediary of taxation. A libertarian cannot accept that kind of property acquisition as morally legitimate, since it involves the initiation of force on innocent people.
Well, let's not forget that the government acquires its property, its land, not just through taxation, but through war. Most of the United States exists today through broken contracts and war with Indians. So, well, I mean, does that make it legitimately owned land in the first place? Because what governments are, as we understand them today, I think that we can have governments that perhaps aren't what we understand them to be today, but that's going to take an entire paradigm shift. So what they are today is this sort of super ownership. You own your property, or so you're told, but the government owns it too, because they're able to tax you on it. If you don't pay for your property, then they kick you off, right? Like once every year, or sometimes quarterly or biannually, however they have it broken up. Property taxes. Property taxes function remarkably like rent. And when property taxes were given to us through monarchs, they were called quit rents in English. So, rent is right there in the word. And the government claims this super state of ownership above us. And I don't know whether that's legitimate at all. Do you own anything if somebody has a higher say on it than you do? I mean, that's not the definition of ownership.
Right. You really don't own anything in this country. And that's tough, I think, for some people to have that realization that you don't really own any of your property, because try not paying taxes and see how fast you really own it. Or
to own something means to control it.
Right.
And if they take your property from you, you clearly don't own it.
And they don't own it goes all the way down to your freedom. You really don't own it. They can take it whenever they want. They can take your kids whenever they want. I mean, you don't really own anything in this country, even though you're told you do.
Well, I'm curious to where Lew Rockwell's going with this, because he's saying that they have to reject, that a libertarian has to reject the idea that government owns property, but that also that public property, that is, but also that the public property is unowned. He's saying you have to reject both of those things. So who then would own it? If the government doesn't own it, by his opinion, and it's also not unowned, then
the government owns it illegitimately.
Well, I'm wondering what he's going to say. We'll get into it here. 855-450-FREE is our number if you want to join us.
My golden retriever, Sundance, is a lot more playful now. She has more pep and energy than I've seen in years.
Tons of energy. Petey is having fun again. He's got a shiny coat and a good healthy weight.
Molly's been having 4 scoops a day. She pushes her little bowl all the way across the room, emptying every last single crumb. She has slimmed down and gotten this puppy look.
She's got life. She's got energy. She's got stuff to give.
We get asked all the time when we're at shows, how do you get your dog so healthy and shiny and glossy?
DINOVITE.com.
859-428-1000.
The omega-3 fatty acids.
Flaxseed, zinc, alfalfa.
The digestive enzymes that are cooked out of regular dog food.
Family will be on Dinovite for the rest of his life.
Just feed your dog right. Use Dinovite. If it's working, don't quit.
859-428-1000.
859-428-1000.
DINOVITE.com.
My name is Bill Bonner, and I have an important message. Right now, the highest levels of government are struggling against an inevitable crisis, but they're about to lose control. When this happens, it will rip our country apart in ways you never imagined. From where we shop to the family you want to protect. Look, I've made predictions like this before. A few years ago, I warned that the housing prices would collapse. Before that, I warned that .com companies would crash, and they did. Those who listened had a chance to save themselves. But this has nothing to do with the stock market. This will affect us all. I've posted a free video at disappearingwealth.com. Maybe you'll disagree with my conclusions, but first you need to watch this video and see the facts for yourself. You can watch the video for free right now by going to disappearingwealth.com. Again, that's disappearingwealth.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp, is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com.
LRN.FM is proud to announce our official listening apps for Android and iOS devices. Now you can easily tune into our streams anywhere, anytime on your smartphone or tablet. Just visit apps.lrn.fm or search for LRN.FM in the Android or Apple app stores. Please download, rate it 5 stars, then share the link on social media, and let your friends and family know how you're listening to LRN.FM. Download it now, free at apps.lrn.fm. That's apps.lrn.fm.
In Survivor Max 2, School Bites, Max must scavenge through a wasteland swarming with the undead. Desperate to find the medicine he needs, he discovers a community of survivors at his former school. Has he finally found the safe haven he's been looking for, or will he discover that school bites? Look for Survivor Max on Facebook, read reviews on Amazon, and read Chapter 1 at survivormax.com.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
join us on Free Talk Live. We're talking about property and what exactly public property is. This is according to a piece over at LewRockwell.com. And we're going to dig into that a little bit further here. I also want to let you know about freetalklive.com. It's been redesigned for 2015. I think it looks great. Hopefully you'll agree. If you haven't been in a little while, go and check it out and get interactive. It's free to do that over at freetalklive.com. If you're getting online and you aren't protected, well, there's an easy thing to do to help protect yourself online. Let's go to proxpn.com and get started with ProXPN. It's a virtual private network. They encrypt your internet connection, and you can get started over at proxpn.com and then use code FTL50 in order to get 50% off the regular monthly price when you order their annual account. Whether you got Windows, Macintosh, iOS, Android, or Linux, setup is super easy. And ProXPN keeps no logs of your activities whatsoever, so the government, they won't be giving your information. Your internet service provider won't know what you're doing. ProXPN.com, code FTL50. Go get started there and help take back your privacy at proxpn.com with code FTL50. It's Ian, Tarrin, and Mark in the studio. We're going to LewRockwell.com. Lew himself writing a fairly detailed piece about the idea of immigration, and he's getting down into the concept of public property, because to him and
what is it?
To most libertarians, this is a problem. This idea of public property that is something that is not owned by an individual or a company or whatever. It's owned by government, supposedly. That's what government would like you to believe. But Lew says that we can't accept the idea that government, as libertarians, we should not accept the idea that government owns property. And the reasoning he gives for that is because, well, almost everything the government owns was acquired by force. And he makes the general statement that government acquires its property by force, usually the intermediary of taxation. But there are some exceptions to that rule. And I'll give you an example of this. So here in Keene, New Hampshire, where we're doing this show, there's a park called Robin Hood Park. That park, as I understand it, was previously privately owned. I mean, as privately owned as something can be under our government system. And those private owners gave that property to the government. So it was like part of their will. When they passed on, that property went to the city of Keene. Is that piece of property something that the city of Keene actually legitimately owns? If indeed most of its property was garnered through taxation, which means it was stolen, that piece wasn't.
It's so the maintenance of that property, the improvement of that property, if it was given as a place with just a forest, right,
Yeah.
and it was turned into a park,
presumably by the government,
improvement property in and of itself isn't terribly valuable, right? Like we could go and homestead a place on Antarctica, and we could probably get away with it, even though government claims land. I don't know exactly how it would go down, but there are certainly pieces of land that you could attempt to homestead. If you tried to call yourself another part of another country, make your own country, that's going to be an issue because governments don't like new governments. But generally setting up on some useless piece of land, that's land's not quite that dear yet. However, if we're talking about, since you're talking about the improvement of the property, all that improvement, the bulldozers were paid for by taxation, the maintenance workers that cut the grass and do all the stuff that and move the dirt around and plant the flowers and all that stuff, that's all paid for by taxation. If those people that donated the property had wanted to put the property in a trust as a park, so that the people of the general region could come around and walk by the river or whatever it is they do, then they would have had to put in that trust some money to maintain the grounds. And that would have been a much larger gift than simply the dirt. See what I'm saying?
Okay.
So the improvement, land's value is in its improvement in many ways.
So then are you saying that the government does legitimately own Robin Hood Park?
No, they do not. Because
they improve. Oh, you're saying because the money that was going to improve it was stolen from people, therefore they don't actually own it, even though the title was given to them?
Right. So if you took the parks, all the parks, and you gave them to some organization, the Park Organization of X City, right? And that organization then fundraised to keep parks going, whether they fundraised through little boxes. That's how they do hiking trails here in New Hampshire. They just put a little box and say, you give some money when you hike. And I do. I assume some people do and some people don't. And they use that money, and I don't know how much more to
Well, right. How
maintain.
much of the right? So, is there full budget coming from those boxes, or is it tax dollars that's backing up the budget?
I can't answer as far as the hiking goes. I haven't researched it thoroughly enough, but I can say that if you're taking tax money to maintain your park, then that park is not legitimately, the municipalities.
Okay.
Well, I think that's a good point. I mean, if you can maintain complete you can maintain the land without government dollars or stealing money from other people through taxation, then yeah, I guess they do own it. I mean, it's a free exchange. I'm donating my land to the city government because I love them, and they're able to somehow maintain that without tax money. Maybe I left enough money in my trust to maintain it.
And there are volunteers.
So I guess that's legit.
I know there are some volunteers that take care of another one of the parks in town here, which is a very nice park in Keene called Ashwalet Park. Beautiful park. I don't know how much of it is volunteer hours versus government bureaucrat hours, and so I don't know what the breakdown is over at the Robin Hood Park either. So if it were all volunteer maintained and constructed, then would the government legitimately own the park, Mark?
Yes.
Okay. But presumably it's not. Presumably there's some tax dollars. So the fact that one tax dollar was spent, in your mind, invalidates their claim of ownership?
If one tax dollar was spent, then you have a bad set of bureaucrats, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could have done it for whatever it was for $1 less. So what the reason, for instance, in my town, many rural areas around America, they have these communal driveways they call roads. Down these communal driveways live, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 houses. Why is it that I, as a resident of my town or county or whatever, have to pay to maintain this road? In many cases, it doesn't come out anywhere. It's just a long strip of road that leads to 7 houses. Right. And it's essentially a dead end, no outlet, that kind of thing. That driveway is for those people. It's for those 7 people. Sometimes it'll even have a bridge on it.
That's expensive.
Explain to me, people of X town or X county, why I, as a taxpayer in your particular town, have to pay to maintain a bridge that people who, on a road that I never drive down, for people that have houses down that road and they're visitors.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I remember when I was living in West Virginia and we had these small country roads, and if you were buddies with like the town council, you could get a road paid to your house that would normally cost $100,000.
Right,
These guys
sure.
have, a crush and run put in their house, 3 or 4 miles into the woods, and they somehow get it to be government roads so they don't have to plow it. And it's always buddies that are like on the council.
My driveway's 400 feet. Now, it's not the longest driveway in the world by any stretch of the imagination.
It's still pricey to maintain, though.
It'd be really awesome if the town would just go ahead and annex that as a Class C road and plow it during the winter instead of me having to pay $60
I'm sure
a
if
month.
you sucked up to enough local bureaucrats, you could have it done.
Our toll-free number tonight is 855-450-FREE. We're talking about property ownership, and ultimately this is going to come back around into immigration. It's Free Talk Live.
If you or someone you care about loves outdoor adventure, then check out slingbow.com for some unique holiday gift ideas. That's slingbow.com, where we have some innovative new products for the archer, hunter, or bow fishing enthusiast in your family. Now through January, use the promo code HOLIDAY to get free shipping in the U.S. or Canada. And from all of us at Slingbow Industries, have a safe, joyous, and peaceful holiday season.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states.
Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Every once in a while, you get information that's worth changing your life for. This is one such time. You can save up to and beyond 25% on all purchases at Amazon. You probably heard of Bitcoin and just not thought much about it. You certainly know that you can get competitive pricing at Amazon, but now you can get a 25% discount on nearly everything you need to live. I've just given you a huge raise, and all you have to do is claim it. You go to saveitpurse.com and open an account. Do this right now. Don't wait. Then you fund the account with Bitcoin. I know this sounds unbelievable, but at my house, we saved as much as 45% off of a new item on Amazon. This information is worth you changing the way you do things. Go to saveitpurse.com right now, get signed up, and cash in on the huge raise I'm offering you. 15 to 25% off of everything at Amazon through saveitpurse.com. It's saveatpurse.com.
This is your Roberts & Roberts Brokerage Daily Precious Metals Update. In early trading Wednesday, gold is down $1.50 at $1,069 per ounce. Silver is down 9 cents at $14.16 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at $333 US. Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been buying and selling precious metals since 1977. For more information, give us a call at 800-874-9760 or visit us online at rrbi.co.
DVD, books, music, instruments, periodicals, computers, software, electronics, photo, cell phone, office products, home and garden, bed and bath, furniture, kitchen, pet supplies, automotive, hardware, apparel, shoes, jewelry, grocery, healthcare, sports and outdoors, toys, games, used, and more.
It's a department store at your fingertips. Shop.freetalklive.com. Get all your shopping done, get a great deal, and a portion of your purchase goes to benefit Free Talk Live when you enter Amazon via shop.freetalklive.com.
Money, power, and respect are all yours at CreditSuccessSecretsRevealed.com. Be seen as an industry leader. You can do it. The last application you filled out when it was time to hit submit, did your nerves spike? You didn't get the approval you seek, but there's a better way. We teach you exactly what to place into the right systems the right way the first time so you get approved. Get up to $100,000 in instant business credit. Many people will get cash on the spot. Use those two tools in your new corporate credit engine so you can walk into the bank and get your project funded today. It's all about today at CreditSuccessSecretsRevealed.com. Credit Success Secrets Revealed is explosive and ignites instant results. Dial 1-800-707-8719. That's 1-800-707-8719. 1-800-707-8719. Or just go to CreditSuccessSecretsRevealed.com.
What's up next? Visit the Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live, and you're invited to join us here toll free. Our number's 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And there's an additional way that you can sort of listen into at least some of the show tonight. Tarrin, you've got Periscope opened up right now.
Yeah, if you guys don't know what Periscope is, it's kind of like Skype for Twitter. So if you have a Twitter account, you can just look me up. It's Tarrin, Tarrinlupo. Tarrin Lupo. You just go there, and we have a behind-the-scenes feed on Periscope if you want to see what we talk about at the breaks or what's going on.
You're fooling around with this Google, a plastic version of the Google Cardboard.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's pretty neat stuff.
I mean,
Periscope, go to where again? Twitter.com/?
Periscope, look me up, TarrinLupo.com. Or you can find me on Twitter at TarrinLupo.com. They'll both bring you there. You'll see a link that's on my Twitter.
Right? The .com.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, at Tarrin Lupo. Sorry.
Okay, good.
I just threw that .com on there because
it's a good habit. It's a good habit to get into.
Yeah, my fault.
So we're talking about property, and specifically public property. Lew Rockwell pointing out that he says libertarians should reject the idea that government can legitimately own any property whatsoever. But he also says libertarians can't say that public property is unowned. He says property in the possession of a thief is not unowned, even if at the moment it does not happen to be held by the rightful owner. The same goes for so-called public property. It was purchased and developed by means of money seized from taxpayers. They are the true owners. But what does that really even mean? I mean, if all of the taxpayers everywhere or in that one political jurisdiction are the owners of that public property, how does that really How do you get from A to B, from where we are today to the ideal of private property everywhere?
If I go to a park for a picnic or something like that, or even to let my son use the playground equipment, in all likelihood, that park is not going to be in my town. It's going to be in the major metro.
Okay.
That my town is sort of circles like a like a satellite.
Yeah.
That metro's Keene. So the Keene taxpayers pay to maintain a park that I, the illegal immigrant, use for my kid. Now, there's not a little box there where I can shove money in for my specific park usage or anything like that.
Okay.
They just open it up for whatever reason. But the nature of things is that you, Ian, who live in this godforsaken socialist hellhole, you've got to pay so that me and my kid can go and play in the jungle gym, the high-end jungle gym that all your tax dollars went for.
Well, I bet you spend a lot of tax money in Keene and don't realize it. Every time you make a purchase or buy food and stuff, so you're paying for it.
It's a draw, is the suggestion. Well, I don't know that.
But if you were just, hypothetically, if you're just driving.
Since those businesses don't get to choose whether or not they draw.
Yeah, where does that money go? And there was a big question of, in New Hampshire, there's really no taxes except when you eat out, and there's a high tax rate for that, like
it's 9% on out of home.
And we always wondered where that money went. Like, why does this one thing have taxes and nothing else?
Well, they have other taxes in New Hampshire. They just call them fees. They're not called taxes.
There's hotel. Yep. They stiff it to anyone that comes in from out of state.
She's talking about state taxes.
The state sells liquor.
State gets a portion of property also.
Yeah,
and sells liquor and cigarette licenses and stuff like that.
So it's kind of interesting to think, this big wash of money comes in. What actually goes back to that little park? How would you know if you're actually spending money?
The state doesn't maintain parks generally. They might maintain, woodland hiking areas, but it's impossible to figure it out. It's just so muddled.
I don't even understand. Like I hike on a federal property, this dam that I like to walk on, and what is that? Who pays for that?
Well, let's get back into Lew here. He says this, incidentally, was the correct way to approach desocialization in the former communist regimes of Eastern Europe. All those industries were the property of people who had been looted to build them, and those people should have received shares in proportion to their contribution to the extent that it could have been determined. So he's talking about a possible way to get from where we are today to where we want to go, which is, total private property, ideally. But the idea of handing out shares to each tax-paying person, like in Keene, there's 10,000, from what I understand, tax-paying properties, basically.
Yeah, but and who's owned them for how long, and how long's that property been there? So if you're talking about a park that's been in place for, in the case of Central Square in Keene, New Hampshire, been in place for more than 200 years, you need to find the heirs of the people who paid property tax 250 years ago.
Well, also, what about people who've just moved to town? We're relatively new to the area.
Well, what about the ones that moved last week?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
They've only paid 1 year's worth of property taxes or whatever.
If you've just bought property, do you have a greater claim as far as do you get more shares? Is it per year that you've owned the property and paid into the property tax system? Or is it just, one share goes to each property owner? And then how do you deal with that? Like that sounds like instituting more bureaucracy. I understand you're getting away from the government, but now you've got a corporation with people and shares, and you got to form a board, and I don't know if I want to deal with all that crap.
Well, I'm a little confused. Are you saying like that? Say I pay $1,000 in taxes, that I would get 1,000 shares, and every time I wanted to go somewhere, that would be deducted. It'd be like, oh, okay, you got to pay 20 shares to go to this park.
No.
It's just crazy.
No. What he's talking about, I'm sorry if it wasn't clear. What he's talking about is taking a government-owned thing, or what government, purports to own. So like a park. And then how do we go from having it be the government park to private society? And certainly giving out shares sounds like a fair way to do it. The idea being that, okay, well, if there's 10,000 property owners in Keene and there's a park, then each of those owners would then have a share in the park. That would be one way to do it. Or would it be arranged to where each person that has paid in property taxes over decades is given a share
that's a good point.
In the park?
Okay.
Or is somebody who's just bought a house in Keene and then they transition to this new shareholder thing, do they have as equal a claim on the park because they paid property taxes for a year as someone who's paid property taxes for 30 years? So I don't have an answer. I don't even know if I support that particular organization of how to transition from our current state to a privately owned state. I don't want to deal with owning a park. Now, I guess I could sell my shares off.
I think the obvious thing to do is forget that taxpayers own parks, right? I just don't think that that's viable. If cities want parks maintained, and we're transitioning to a more liberty-oriented world, I don't think parks are by any stretch the biggest part of our problem here. I think the biggest part of our problem is public education. That is, you get the worst education and for the most money. But if parks are the issue, then the city should let a couple of organizations bid for the park. And obviously, it's designated for that particular, purpose. So I can see why they would want to say, look, we need a certain amount of parks. So we're going to sell it to this organization that claims they're going to keep it as a park.
Parks of Keene.
Right. That. And then that organization can fundraise in whatever way it wants. And by fundraising, I don't mean necessarily just nonprofit fundraising. They can put a gate on it and say, you got to slide a quarter in to come through the turnstile. I don't care what way they do it, but at that point it's funding itself as opposed to the current system we have where overpaid government bureaucrats. I worked for the Parks Association of a city in Florida. I know what goes on there, and there's a lot of sitting around.
I'm not saying this is the worst idea in the world, the idea of handing out shares to people to transition to a non-government owned property system, but I, for one, am not really interested, so I would be someone who would sell those shares off. I don't want to deal with having to manage parks and all that. And I imagine there would be some entrepreneur who would come in and offer to buy up shares from people. But talk about a complicated system.
What a mess,
then you've got to mail, send a piece of mail to 10,000. I mean, we're just in Keene. It's a small town. There's 10,000 property tax paying places here that you'd have to contact to try to buy all of their shares up. I mean, this just sounds like an absolute nightmare. It certainly could be accused of like cronyism if you were if you were only offering the park for sale to a few different companies. So I would think it'd have to be open bids, not just 2 or 3 of them. But we can continue the discussion. What's the best way to get from where we are, which is with all this government-owned land, government roads, government parks, government buildings, transitioning from that into private ownership? How would you best set that up? Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, 855-450-3733. I say whatever's simplest is best.
You can control your health care with Liberty Health Share.
Liberty Health Share is like-minded people coming together to share medical costs, which saves money.
You don't even have to pay for procedures that violate your conscience.
Because we all share the same values.
Join the movement of people who share in medical costs and change the way you pay for your health care forever.
Go to libertyhealthshare.org to find out more.
Liberty Health Share.
Together, we're changing healthcare for good. libertyhealthshare.org.
Currency is too important a thing to be left in the hands of government bureaucrats, especially when billions of dollars can be created with the swipe of a pen. Overstock.com supports the cryptocurrency movement because it returns the power of an inflation-proof form of money to the people where it belongs. Did you know that you can use Bitcoin to pay for anything Overstock.com sells while enjoying free shipping on orders of 0.211 Bitcoin or more? If you support freedom and the cryptocurrency movement, you should support Overstock.com.
Just recently, we've witnessed some of the most catastrophic disasters in history. Be sure to prepare yourself with great-tasting, high-quality, GMO-free food that has a 25-year shelf life. Of course, we're talking about the foods from SurvivalFoodAlliance.com. And don't forget, the human body needs up to 3 quarts of water every day to remain healthy and hydrated. So check out our water bricks at SurvivalFoodAlliance.com. Go to SurvivalFoodAlliance.com or call 877-223-1776.
There are hundreds of silver products on the market today, but there's nothing like the astonishing health benefits of the multi-patented One Silver Solution. Boost your immune system at a great price with our Silver Solution Liquid, starting at $12.95 a bottle. Now available in regular and extra strength. That's half the price of the leading competitors. Call 844-USILVER for your free catalog, or go to OneSilverSolution.com. OneSilverSolution.com. There is only one Silver Solution.
Understanding your credit score is the first step towards managing and improving it. This is Charlie Sundstrom with your Van Dyke Mortgage Minute. The most influential component of your credit score is your payment history. Almost equally as important is the amount you owe on credit accounts. Also impacting your score, but to a lesser degree, are the length of time you've utilized your credit, the number of new accounts, credit inquiries, and your various types of credit accounts. To help achieve or maintain a healthy credit score, have a system set up to assure your bills are always paid on time. Don't max out your cards. It's better to have a high credit limit with a low balance. Never close old accounts. The age of these can actually help your credit score. But don't be afraid to use your credit. You need several accounts in order to have a credit score. Just keep the corresponding payments within your means. For your mortgage pre-approval and refi needs, start by visiting VanDykeMortgage.com.
Corporate NMLS 3035. Van Dyke Mortgage is an equal housing lender. Charlie Sundstrom, NMLS 134251.
The three most important things you can do for Free Talk Live are: 1, share one episode a week on Facebook or in some other social networking site. 2, buy the things you buy online through shop.freetalklive.com. 3, give $5 a month to the AMP program. It's my firm belief that Free Talk Live's AMP program is the best use of your charitable dollar among liberty-oriented organizations. Support all the organizations you love, but make sure you give $5 a month to AMP at amp.freetalklive.com. I love My Magic Mud. I drink a lot of coffee. I had stains on my teeth. Then I found My Magic Mud, and I was told it would remove stains. So I paid attention when I brushed the first time. My Magic Mud is black tooth powder, and the difference it made in my teeth in one application was noticeable. With 4, my teeth were as white as you normal folks out there. Please go to mymagicmud.com and buy a jar. There's 150 applications for $25. You can use Bitcoin, mymagicmud.com.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an amplifier at amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. You can join us right here. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. We're getting into the nitty-gritty of property ownership and who really owns property. I mean, we don't actually.
What does it even mean?
Yeah. Well, I think ownership is a big factor of ownership is control, and certainly you appear to have control over your property until the government decides they want the control.
You're responsible for paying for the roof and the hot water heater.
Yeah.
But if you don't pay the property taxes that the government demands from you, which look remarkably like rent, then they're going to take it away from you. In the same way that a landlord would kick your butt out if you decided not to pay rent. So I contend, and I have yet to hear anybody rebut it, that property ownership is really, in the paradigm that we live in, and I'm not just talking about the United States, I'm talking about just about globally, then the paradigm we live in with these organizations that call themselves states, that claim monopoly privilege and the use of violence in a given geographic area, that in that paradigm, there is no property.
Now, we are, just to be clear, we're talking specifically about land kind of property, land and houses and parks and things like that.
Real estate.
Not other kinds of, because there's a lot of kinds of property. Like, something that you absolutely do own is the food you put into your body. The government's generally not going to be able to take that before you can eat it. So that you can actually, munch on before they arrive, and you can destroy the evidence in that particular case. And that's what we have done with our food from nuts.com. We started with a full box load of delicious treats from nuts.com last week, and it has been completely exhausted. Tarrin, you missed the show last week.
I did.
So unfortunately,
no treats for you.
We got nothing for you.
No treats for you.
That's wrong, man.
But man, had you been here, Tarrin, you would have had some wonderful experiences with some delicious nuts, the freshest products from the best suppliers in the world. It's super good product, and they've got more than nuts over at nuts.com. Over 3,000 healthy snacks that you can choose from. Dried fruit like apricots, figs, dates, and strawberries, to sweet treats like chocolate-covered nuts, every flavor of gummy bear, and Monkey Munch. I don't know what that is, but they've got it at nuts.com, and more, including coffees and teas. And
you can go find out what it is. Go to nuts.com and search Monkey Munch.
Sugar and gluten-free items as well as gift baskets. It is, of course, the gift-giving time of the year, so what better gift to give than some delicious treats from nuts.com. And if you're a new customer and use code FTL, like Free Talk Live, code FTL, you'll get 4 free samples with your first order It's a $15 value, and there are over 50 options from which you can choose for those four free samples. So get started over at nuts.com. Go there for the full details and use code FTL to get the 4 free samples with your first order at nuts.com. As we continue here, we are discussing, thanks to the Lew Rockwell piece at lewrockwell.com, he's writing about immigration, but is explaining the idea of public property, and ultimately is going to come back to immigration here. So he writes, in an anarcho-capitalist world with all property privately owned, immigration would be up to each individual property owner to decide. Right now, on the other hand, immigration decisions are made by a central authority, with the wishes of property owners completely disregarded. The correct way to proceed, therefore, is to decentralize decision-making on immigration to the lowest possible level so that we approach ever more closely the proper libertarian position in which individual property owners consent to the various movements of peoples. Ralph Raico, a great libertarian historian, once wrote, quote, "Free immigration would appear to be in a different category from other policy decisions, in that its consequences permanently and radically alter the very composition of the democratic political body that makes those decisions. In fact, the liberal order, where and to the degree that it exists, is the product of a highly complex cultural development. One wonders, for instance, what would become of the liberal society of Switzerland under a regime of open borders," unquote. Switzerland is, in fact, an interesting example, says Lew. Before the European Union got involved, the immigration policy of Switzerland approached the kind of system we're describing here. In Switzerland, localities decided on immigration, and immigrants or their employers had to pay to admit a prospective migrant. In this way, residents could better ensure their communities would be populated by people who would add value and who would not stick them with the bill for a laundry list of benefits. Now,
so it's the benefits are what costs here. There was a time in the United States history when basically anybody could come, and they had to stick around for 3 days on Ellis Island. They messed up their name and then let them loose. There weren't benefits. It's the benefits, because in a world where where an immigrant doesn't cost you anything, where you don't have to pay for their schooling, their hospital, their food, and their shelter and everything, where they don't, then it's the people are going to want immigrants because they add to the economy. They're good for the economy. Now, obviously,
they're good for the economy now. Most immigrants are not welfare recipients. They're hardworking people who make a better life for themselves and make the economy better.
All the studies that we see support what you're saying, but it's marginal. It's not clear. And it would be clear, right? There wouldn't be the arguments out there about, should an immigrant be, should they be eligible for this and that and the other thing. There wouldn't be the arguments if they're just, these programs didn't exist or the immigrants weren't eligible for them. And I have proposed in my Blue Card program essentially letting people come in, register with the government, and that they're here, and then get a Blue Card, and they'd be eligible for nothing.
So what I don't really like what he's saying here, he's saying he says, and they who would not stick them with the bill for a laundry list of benefits. He's referring to the immigrants, suggesting that the immigrants are sticking people with a bill. And that's not what's happening at all. It's the government that's sticking you with the bill. They're the ones who are putting the gun to your head, theoretically, and demanding you either pay up for this welfare program that we've decided how to administer arbitrarily, or we're going to put you in a prison cell or kick you out of your home.
But the people that accept benefits, they certainly don't have a problem with how they're funded.
Obviously, in a pure open border system, the Western welfare states would simply be overrun by foreigners seeking tax dollars. As libertarians, we should, of course, celebrate the demise of the welfare state, but to expect a sudden devotion to laissez-faire to be the likely outcome of a collapse into the welfare state is to indulge in naivete of an especially preposterous kind. Can we conclude that an immigrant should be considered invited by the mere fact that he's been hired by an employer? No, says Hans, because the employer does not assume the full cost associated with his new employee. The employer partially externalizes the cost of that employee onto the tax-paying public.
Which part?
Here's a quote from Hans Hermann Hoppe. Equipped with a work permit, the immigrant is allowed to make free use of every public facility, roads, parks, hospitals, schools, and no landlord, businessman, or private associate.
Hold on. A hospital isn't generally public property, or isn't necessarily public property.
That's true.
So
you're talking about Europeans, though, in this, right? Don't they consider it public property there?
An immigrant or anybody else can go to an emergency room and get treatment. Now, I think that's a bad law, and that medical providers should be able to decide who they provide service to and how they do it. And many of them would do it for charity work, but they should decide where that stops rather than there being a law codifying it. However, the cost to roads for immigrants riding around on them, marginal. The road's there. It was paid for. Is it getting wear and tear? Yes. But let's quantify the amount of cars passing across this. This is a funding problem. This is not an immigration problem. Parks, please, same problem as roads. You have an overhead cost for the maintenance of a park, and unless the immigrants are going there and carving their name and stuff or something like that, and I'm sure some of them do, but I'm sure plenty of citizens do the same thing, it doesn't really make a difference.
So he says no landlord, businessman, or private associate is permitted to discriminate against him as regards housing, employment, accommodation, and association.
Again, bad laws.
Right. That is, the immigrant comes invited with a substantial fringe benefits package paid for not only partially by the immigrant's employer, who allegedly has extended the invitation, but by other domestic proprietors as taxpayers who had no say in the invitation whatsoever. So back to Lew Rockwell, who says these migrations, in short, are not market outcomes. They would not occur on a free market. What we're witnessing are examples of subsidized movement. Libertarians defending these mass migrations as if they were market phenomena are only helping to discredit and undermine the true free market.
Well, so the free market is undermined when we say that we wouldn't allow labor to cross borders simply because this commodity we call labor is housed in the form of human bodies. Okay, the market's undermined because we don't understand how labor should be distributed. To suggest that we should externalize, as nations, externalize labor in the form of cheap plastic crap that comes from Bangladesh or whatever, that just says that we essentially should have these what I call them is I call them giant tax farms. You're tax livestock to these politicians. That's what you're good to them for. They milk you for dollars. And to suggest that they're not allowed to leave their farm. Free people can cross the borders of free countries, or you don't have free people and you don't have free countries.
Well, Rockwell has some more to say, and we'll dig into that. You can share your thoughts on immigration or private property. It's Free Talk Live.
Are your kids spending too much time online? Are they gaming instead of doing homework? Are they on Facebook instead of sleeping? Turn their internet access on or off when you want for free at webcurfew.com. 100% web-based interface means nothing to download, install, or configure. Web Curfew is free and controls any device using your home network without slowing down your internet. Block all adult web content with the click of a button. Don't let the internet raise your kids. Take back control of how and when your home internet is used for free. Visit webcurfew.com.
You can control your health care with Liberty Health Share.
Liberty Health Share is like-minded people coming together to share medical costs, which saves money.
You don't even have to pay for procedures that violate your conscience.
Because we all share the same values.
Join the movement of people who share in medical costs and change the way you pay for your health care forever.
Go to libertyhealthshare.org to find out more.
Liberty Health Share.
Together, we're changing healthcare for good. libertyhealthshare.org.
Ross Ulbricht was convicted in early 2015 of running the infamous Silk Road Underground Market. The Silk Road was a gift to humanity and helped reduce the harms brought on by drug prohibition. For this good deed, Ross has been sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. Now, an appeal is Ross's only chance, and he needs your support. Please visit freeross.org, where you can contribute via various methods, including Bitcoin. Visit freeross.org. That's freeross.org. You can listen to Free Talk Live on the radio, podcast, satellite, webcam, and our live streams. But did you know you can listen to Free Talk Live from any phone, anywhere? Add this number to your phone, 213-493-0308. It's a long-distance call, so make sure you're familiar with your phone's calling plan. The listen lines are airing the latest episode of Free Talk Live 24 hours a day, including our live shows. Call 213-493-0308. That's 213-493-0308.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Wednesday, November 18th, 2015. Silver is trading at $14.10 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,069 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $336. Antiwar.com reports pro-Saudi Yemeni President Abdurabu Mansour Hadi has once again returned to the southern city of Aden, his temporary capital, and his office says he intends to oversee the military offensive against Taiz following weeks of predicted victory in the area. Despite continued claims of progress in the Taiz offensive, the city and surrounding province remains disputed, and again, heavy fighting left 53 people killed, including 8 civilians, 25 pro-Hadi fighters, and 20 pro-Houthi fighters. Several airstrikes were reported on Tuesday. The Houthis were mostly killed in airstrikes, as were the civilians, while the Hadi fighters, dubbed mercenaries by pro-Houthi outlets, were killed in an ambush at one of their military camps by Houthi forces backed by the Yemeni military. The camp was apparently set as a trap with explosives planted around the area and tents abandoned. They quickly moved against the invading Hadi forces, detonating explosives and quickly routing them. Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system and to fully capitalize on that decision in their fundraising efforts. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com. UPI reports Senator Ted Cruz from Texas said he plans to draft legislation barring Syrian Muslim refugees from entering the United States amid reports that one of the attackers in Paris may have posed as a migrant. While campaigning in Charleston, South Carolina on Monday, the Republican presidential candidate restated his belief that Muslim refugees should settle in primarily Muslim countries, while Syrian Christians should be welcome in the United States. He said the Christian refugees pose no meaningful risk of committing acts of terrorism. Cruz offered no specifics or timetable for his plans to introduce the legislation in Congress. His comments came in the wake of shootings and explosions last week in Paris, for which the Islamic State has claimed responsibility. The attacks Friday killed at least 129 people and reawakened a global urgency to stop terrorism. Speaking on Monday at the G20 summit in Antalya, Turkey, President Obama said allowing migrants into the United States based on their religion was shameful. Since the incident in Paris, 27 governors of U.S. states have declared their opposition to settling Syrian refugees in their states. All but one of the governors are Republican. Alabama Governor Robert Bentley was one of the first to make such an announcement on Sunday. Other governors used social media or formal letters to the White House to make their position clear. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. Reuters reports Seattle Mayor Ed Murray signed an ordinance into law on Tuesday that he says will add 6,000 living units for low-income residents over the next decade to be paid for by fees on private developers. The measure aims to address an overheated real estate market fueled partly by the growth of Seattle-based internet retailer Amazon.com and other companies, which is pricing out low- and middle-income residents. The new ordinance, part of a set of proposals that could add 20,000 units of affordable housing over 10 years, will provide 6,000 units paid for by private residential and commercial developers, according to the mayor. The law imposes a special fee on commercial development ranging from $5 to $17 per square foot based on a building size and location. A separate resolution passed by the City Council requires up to 8% of multifamily dwellings to be set aside for residents earning no more than 60% of the area's median income. Alternatively, developers could pay a fee to help finance off-site affordable housing. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
In order to more accurately portray the risks of smoking, the FDA has approved putting a picture of Trish on the cover of all cigarette packs. Clinical trials suggest that images of diseased organs, corpses, and deformed infants all prove less effective than a single photograph of Trish smiling. Smokers can expect to see the graphic campaign as early as next month, paired with a simple line of text that reads, "Cigarettes cause Trish." In Science News, a new study finds that every style of parenting inevitably produces disturbed and miserable adults.
Despite a great variance in parenting styles across populations, from overprotective to permissive, the end product is always the same, a profoundly flawed and joyless human being.
One bright note of the study, adults can find temporary happiness when they're able to perpetuate the cycle of human misery by having children. In other news, the Pulitzer Board adds a giant pumpkin category, and a local man's utter failure in life is a bit of a sore spot. For more news, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. We'll give you the numbers and the Skype. Skype username is LRN.FM. Just send a contact request if you have yet to do so. It's super easy to get on here with us. Our toll-free number is also 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. It's Ian with you here tonight.
And Tarrin Lupo running the Periscope. If you're available, you can look me up, tarrinlupo.com. especially on Twitter, and it'll take you right to the behind the scenes if you want to see what we look like and what we're doing.
And Mark.
Yeah, and so for those of you just tuning in, we've been sharing more of the Lew Rockwell piece that we started on the show last night. And if you weren't here for that, that's okay. We'll recap briefly what Rockwell's been saying here in the piece. It's about immigration and what Lew Rockwell believes the proper libertarian viewpoint should be on immigration. So far, he's said that property should be privately owned, that there shouldn't be any kind of public land.
And I agree with it.
That there should be no government property. And I think that we should be clear on this, that public land, as we're discussing it, means land purportedly owned by the government. Because you could have land that you allow the public onto, but it's still privately owned, right? So if I wanted to own a park and allow anyone onto it, then that would be a public, sort of a privately owned public park, if you will. So I think you could still have property that does not discriminate against the people who traverse it, if that was what the private owner wanted to do with it. In a libertarian society, which we don't have. And so part of the other discussion that we had was how to get from where we are, which is this current place with government owning a whole lot of stuff, from roads to parks to buildings, and how do we get from there to where we want to be, which is where those things aren't owned by governments anymore and there are private owners. And I don't think we delved far enough into that. Maybe we can come back around to it. But back to Lew Rockwell, what he's saying here is that right now, with the welfare state involved, that is attracting people to the United States that otherwise wouldn't be coming here because they wouldn't have a job waiting for them or a home waiting for them. And
I've said many times on this program, it's insane to every morning put out a bowl of cat food and then get angry that stray cats come by and, outside your front door, and then stray cats come by and eat the cat food. Like, you shouldn't have that bowl there if you don't want to give away free cat food.
So Rockwell says what we're witnessing are examples of subsidized movement. Libertarians defending these mass migrations as if they were market phenomena are only helping to discredit and undermine the true free market. Moreover, as Hans Hermann Hoppe points out, the free immigration position is not analogous to free trade, as some libertarians have erroneously claimed. In the case of goods being traded from one place to another, there's always and necessarily a willing recipient. The same is not true for free immigration.
Okay, so free trade. When I worked at an import-export company for a little while, they had some English guys came over to pitch their product to us. Those English guys paid for a hotel room, but they drove their rented car on government roads. We did some business, and that's fine, but were these people being subsidized? That's free trade, isn't it? That was going on? That's nonsense. Of course, you're going to, in a Western industrialized nation, that when people come here to exchange their labor for money,
which is part of free trade, that they're going to use things like roads and parks.
Well, and why should someone who wants to come here and make a better life for themselves have to have the job lined up first? I mean, why should they have to do that in order to be considered a legitimate immigrant in this supposed free market? Why shouldn't they, in a free market, why shouldn't they be able to come to a plot of land where people are allowed to come to? Let's say I believe in open immigration, and I want to have a big, RV park or something like that where somebody can pitch a tent or an RV or whatever. Somebody who's just arrived here in this place that wouldn't be called the United States, so we'll call it New Hampshire. They've just arrived and they need a place to get a foothold. Sure, come on over here. You can camp for free. There's no problem. Come on in. So I've given them a place to arrive, right? So they have a place to come to as long as they can get to it. And, of course, you can't tell someone they can't fly somewhere generally, right? Because that's not – you don't own all the way up infinitely into the sky, do you? So, they come into this location, they come out on this property, and then they go to places that would allow people to go to look for jobs, right? You don't have to have a permission slip to go around a shopping mall and look for jobs. I don't have to have permission,
And this is a huge history point is, for many, many, many years of this country, you didn't have to put up with that. You just, my grandparents came out without jobs, and that was a normal thing. You came over first and then got the job. It wasn't a line. You didn't have to do a bunch of crazy paperwork. It was ridiculous to what it's become.
Even if there was a criteria that you had to have a job, and that was the criteria for coming to the United States, I can assure you that many agricultural companies would be offering jobs up. Look, you want a job?
Show up.
Yeah, send us an email. And, there would be jobs. You want a place to pitch a tent? Fine, we've got that too. And the wages would not be phenomenal, but the jobs would exist. If that was the only criteria, then people would be able to establish a foothold. But that isn't the case. What you have to show here in the United States of America is that an American won't do the job. And that doesn't make much sense because I'd be happy to pick fruit for you for $150,000 a year. You let me know. I'll quit my day job.
So the other thing is that Rockwell's suggesting that in a true free market, there would be places where people would be more free to discriminate. And there's no doubt those places would exist. I don't think they'd be in the majority of places. I don't think that most places would be some sort of racist hellhole where only certain people of a certain skin color were allowed to go to. Those places would likely exist. But people who wanted to immigrate would not choose those places, right? So they would go to the place. If you were wanting to immigrate to somewhere, you'd go to a place where you knew you would be welcome. You don't want to go into the from the frying pan into the fire. You want to go to a better place. So you go somewhere where you know you'd be welcome. You can find a place to go to, and then you go to a place where the streets allow anybody to walk on them. Who wants to live in a place where you have to have a pass card to walk downtown? I mean, I'm sure there's somebody who's like super security conscious and paranoid that would live in some kind of gated community like that. That's not me, and it's not most of the people that I know. Is that who Lew Rockwell is? Is he the kind of guy who, wants that? I don't know the guy. He sat in our studio once. He did edit the Ron Paul newsletter back in the day in the 1980s, didn't he, when there was those racist posts that were stirred up during the Ron Paul candidacy?
They were racially insensitive, I think is probably the best way to describe them. He was the editor, but, he was the editor.
So let me go on with what Lew says here on his blog at lewrockwell.com. To be sure, it's fashionable in the U.S. to laugh at words of caution about mass immigration. Why people made predictions about previous waves of immigration were told, and we all know those didn't come true. Now, for one thing, those waves were all...
I think it bears mentioning the Mariel boat lift. So in the 80s, Castro emptied his prisons and insane asylums out out into the Gulf of Mexico to head to Florida.
Get rid of the undesirables.
And sent them to Florida. And there was a crime wave as a result. Miami was not made better by the people that arrived in the Mariel boat lift. Situation. Now, that should not be construed in any way, shape, or form, listen to me, to mean that all Cubans are criminals,
just the Cubans that came from the Mariel boat lift and some percentage of them. Some of them were fine, right? Like, so
They're probably relieved to get away from Castro.
This is the difficulty here is to decide what's better and what's worse as far as this goes. Yes, there have been worse immigration situations in the U.S. and there have been better ones.
Well, an idea that you really can't have freedom and safety, that you can't have free borders without you're going to let some bad people over. And that's just the way it is. If you want to live free, you can't control that.
Yeah.
Some bad people are in the government.
Yeah, most. There you go. So the point is there's no such thing as a safe solution that's 100% safe. You're always going to allow somebody across that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, and I'd rather have the freedom and take the risks than
I'd rather have the 99
good
people than,
But we don't get that
of
option.
the bad one.
Our toll-free number tonight for you, if you want to join us here, 855-450-FREE. Rockwell's got more to say, and you can share your thoughts. Our Skype username is LRN.FM. It's Ian, Tarrin, and Mark in the studio. Our toll-free number, 855-450-FREE.
Have you become a slave to big tobacco? Have they taken away your money, your health, and even your freedom, forcing you to stand out in the cold this winter? There's an alternative. With the help of Jimmy the Juice Man and GiantVapes.com, for less than the cost of a carton of cigarettes, you can make the switch to electronic cigarettes and take back your freedom. At GiantVapes.com, you'll find a selection of high-quality, reasonably priced electronic cigarette hardware kits to get you started, and a selection of delicious, premium, flavored liquid refills from the award-winning Jimmy the Juice Man brand. These aren't the junk you find at your local convenience store or gas station. Use coupon code FTL10 for 10% off your first order of hardware and Jimmy the Juice Man brand liquid at GiantVapes.com, where you'll always get free guaranteed same-day shipping. Break free of the chains of sin taxes and big tobacco. Free same-day shipping and 10% off from GiantVapes.com with coupon code FTL10. That's GiantVapes.com with coupon code FTL10.
Pro Pure water, the way nature meant it to be. Clean, crisp, and refreshing. Pro Pure, the most trusted name in gravity water filtration systems. With the silver-infused Pro 1G 2.0 all-in-one water filter. Helps remove and reduce over 200 contaminants. Don't purchase just any filter claiming to be certified. Get the Pro 1G 2.0, the only gravity filter with NSF 42 certification. NSF, valued and recognized for independent certification worldwide. In addition, the Pro 1G 2.0 was independently tested to meet NSF 53 and P231 standards. ProPure, easy to assemble, easy to maintain, easy to clean filters. Purchase with confidence in quality, performance, and customer service. Take advantage of our biggest holiday 25% off sale going on now. Visit your authorized ProPure dealer or ProPureUSA.com. That's ProPureUSA.com. Or call 800-544-3533.
This past Armistice Day, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage celebrated the end of war by putting their money where their heart is, donating the profit of that day's sales to antiwar.com. Roberts & Roberts Brokerage is making this offer again on Bitcoin Black Friday, November 27th. Shop online at rrbi.co on Black Friday, and Roberts & Roberts will donate the profit of the day's sales to antiwar.com. Antiwar.com is committed to exposing that wars abroad become wars at home. Roberts & Roberts has been your trusted source for precious metals for nearly 40 years. They are anti-war and pro-free market. Banks drive wars. Why use their money? Invest in silver, gold, and Bitcoin and exit the corrupt system that enables war. When you're serious about precious metals, shop Roberts & Roberts online at rrbi.co. That's rrbi.co.
Did you know that you can listen to and watch Free Talk Live during our live show 7 days a week from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern via our studio cam at cam.freetalklive.com? Not only that, but you can also chat with other listeners at the same time. Do I need to mention that both the studio cam and chat room are totally free? Outside of Free Talk Live's live hours, you won't see a cam feed, but will hear audio from the Liberty Radio Network. So listen, watch, and chat all free at cam.freetalklive.com. That's cam.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can watch the LRN Studio Cam and chat with other listeners anytime at cam.lrn.fm. That's cam.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. Join us here toll free. Our number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. You can join us on Skype as well. Our Skype username is lrn.fm. Brave New Books has been around since 2006. They've got books on libertarianism, anarchism, economics, conspiracy, natural health, survival, and more. It's all the good stuff that the government doesn't want you to read. They're carrying amazing health products like Tangy Tangerine, Super Male Vitality, and more. Plus, amazing water filtration products available, including countertop systems, pitchers, on-the-go sport bottles. They got great products, including so much more. Just go to bravenewbookstore.com. Check out John Bush and Catherine Bleich's new operation. It's an old store. They've been around for almost a decade, but John and Kat just took it over this year. They purchased it from its previous owner.
They're changing things up a little bit, making it definitely their own.
I don't know if you guys, I've been to the store in Austin,
Yeah,
and
me too.
it was really neat. They had a lot of cool speakers and stuff you don't see anywhere else. So there's a way to, I bet they have some sort of Facebook, I would imagine,
I
right?
suspect they do.
You could keep up with them to see who their speakers are coming through.
They're doing great work. They're great activists. These guys are hardcore liberty activists, John and Catherine. bravenewbookstore.com. I love that they're branching out to the internet now, because it used to just be sort of like a little bookstore under a building in Austin, and now it's got this internet presence where they're selling internationally, which is cool.
I think it's great. I mean, anything John and Kat get involved in are always pretty awesome. So
I should add this, that they also take Bitcoin at bravenewbookstore.com. So you can join us here. Lew Rockwell is sounding like he is not really digging the idea of open borders, not digging the idea of just allowing people to come in and try to make a better life for themselves, because he says there's not true private property, and if there were true private property, then what we see today wouldn't necessarily be the case with these waves of migrants coming in here, and that's somehow a bad thing.
So I think that this is an issue of nuance to some extent. When I say that I would like to see an immigration program put together like the Blue Card, which I have talked about here on Free Talk Live more than one occasion. I'm going to blog about it here shortly at freetalklive.com. And what I say is that first you need to stop all the foreign wars, because what they do is they create animosity, and if you're going to have open borders where people can come in if that's what they wish to do, then, well, you're going to have a lot of problems if you're trying to fight a war and you have open borders. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we call a caveat. And I say that you need to create, creating the program itself is a caveat. You create the program this way in order to encourage people to come here or whatever. And you've supported that program because it was presented to you in a fashion that makes sense to you. So when people have caveats to open borders, I've got them too. So what he's saying is he's just got different caveats. He may very well support the Blue Card program that I've talked about, where we issue, where the United States government issues, instead of a green card, a blue card to people, and the blue card to immigrants. The Blue Card allows pretty much anybody to come here that is going to be ineligible in any way, shape, or form for basically every government program, every government handout and entitlement. So, there you go.
Yeah, but the people who claim to be libertarian and who at the same time support immigration restrictions, they might support what you're talking about, Mark, but at the same time, they currently support enforcing the border. And that means they support a police state. And to me, that's not a very libertarian position.
The border, right? Well, that's where it all breaks down, right? So if you're saying, okay, we need to enforce the border as we have it, yes, you can enforce the border. It is possible to enforce the border. at least far more so than it is today. You'll never stop everybody from coming through. The question is, what is the cost? We already have roving checkpoints where people are stopped in the United States of America and asked for their papers, not because they were breaking a law, if they were suspected of anything, but simply because they're being stopped. You're being stopped and had your papers checked. Well, what's next? Do you want to have a group of police officers going around neighborhoods and knocking on doors, asking people if they've got their papers there? So, I mean, if you're abroad, what if you're at home? Where does it stop when you want to enforce this border? I say that we are on the police state is rolling downhill. It's on its way, getting bigger and bigger. Do you want that, or do you want something less? And if you want something less than that, it needs to be more freedom around immigration. What does that look like?
Let's go to Aaron. He's in Philly. You're on Free Talk Live. Hey, Aaron. And you're on Skype.
Hey, guys. I was listening to your immigration conundrum, and it seems like you're arguing over an order of operations. Like every libertarian I know agrees that they would like to reach a point where everybody can cross everywhere, but they want to break down the government in the least destructive way possible so that there's the least amount of harm in the process. And different people have different ideas of how this will work. It's all hypothetical anyways. And I wonder why you're being so hard on Lew Rockwell for saying that he doesn't think that this is the first step and that we need to not break down the border first. We need to take care of these other things.
Does it sound like we're being hard on him?
Well, maybe Ian a little bit more.
I think Ian was spoiling for a fight on this one, but I feel like to some extent I've diffused that.
Well, Lew Rockwell's not here, so I'm not sure with whom you think I would be fighting.
The article. It's
not really a fight, is it?
It's not like we don't make a living out of doing that.
I wouldn't really call that a fight, Mark. You can't fight someone that's not there to
railing against it.
Yeah, I mean, well, we haven't finished the story yet, so I'm not really exactly sure where it ends up. But if you're supporting border enforcement, you're not a libertarian. You're not taking a libertarian position at that point. And what Lew's saying is that open borders isn't a libertarian position at all. He's saying that in a free market, there would be no border, and so therefore it would all be private property as far as, whether or not people could come in here. And to that end, I do agree that certainly would be true. But what does that mean for today? If for someone who's saying, well, in the truly libertarian world, there would be no borders at all. It would just be private property. Well, what about right now? What does Lew want to see happen today?
Well, if we were going to construct a good system for sort of justly and fairly allowing people to live their lives, what we wouldn't do is say, let's section off the map and we will cartelize wealth in certain areas of the map and exclude people from those areas of wealth and commerce and turn them over to the hands of insane dictators and despots in the other part of the map, and then have some people on one part of the map support those dictators and despots, and then turn around and stab in the back. I mean, what we've currently got today is the most insane of systems. So the attempting to unwind a Gordian knot is, it's the forever conundrum. Alexander the Great was trying to figure it out. Ian picks up the sword and he tries to cleave it. I pull on a few strings before I cut it in half.
I think that's an accurate depiction. And then, what I think, one of the problems I've always had with libertarianism from the beginning that I still haven't quite resolved, though, is once you do have these open borders, you have everything broken down into private property, and you have somebody who has airspace over their property. What if I fly over? Are they allowed to shoot me down because I flew an airplane over top of their property?
Yeah, that comes back to a point we touched on earlier, is how high above your property does your property rights extend? And I think the best answer to that is as high as you've homesteaded. So if there's a radio tower, then that's as high as your property rights go. Thanks for the call, Aaron. It's Free Talk Live.
A lot of people's lives and bodies are out of balance. AlkaVision Plasma pH drops optimize pH level and get rid of harmful waste and acid. Just a few drops in water restores vibrance and energy and gets you back in balance. Now order 2 bottles and get $10 off your order. Sign up for monthly auto shipping and save 25%. Call 800-518-7615 or visit alkavision.com. Alkalize your body, supercharge your health at alkavision.com.
Hey, Berkey Guy here. Are you still drinking unfiltered tap water? Does your water contain chlorine or fluoride? Will you have drinkable water in an emergency? The Berkey Guy is here to help you remove these and other potential contaminants from your water, thus helping you drink clean, purified water. We offer Berkey water purification systems at the lowest available prices online. Don't go another moment without Berkey system. Over the last 10 years, we've helped thousands drink clean, purified water. Join them by visiting goberkey.com or call me, the Berkey Guy, at 877-886-3653. That's 877-886-3653.
Jared Gilchrist was surfing when he was attacked by a shark that took his leg. Thanks for being with us, big guy.
Thanks, this is tight.
What was going through your mind when you first realized that you were there with a shark all alone in open water?
I felt like a total badass. It bit into my leg and started shaking it back and forth, and at that point I just felt, yes, this is sweet.
I can't imagine what it would have been like to see the teeth sinking into your leg like.
It was sick. At one point I just saw my leg just floating there in the water. It was awesome.
Okay, we're joined now via satellite by Dr. Brian Caddy. What condition was Jared's leg in when you first saw him?
It was in pretty rough shape. The shark had scissored through the muscle, and it was all just like hanging off the bone. It was nuts.
Yeah, I kept touching it. It was slimy as hell.
Yeah, totally. It was insane.
Well, doctor, how do you deal with something like this?
Well, you know, you're never fully prepared for an injury this freaking cool. You know, we just tried to stop the blood loss, and we took a bunch of photos because it's hysterical to freak out the nurses with gnarly shit like this.
This is the Onion News Network.
If you want to play online poker with Bitcoin, you need a site that's trustworthy and technically sound. The site managers of swcpoker.eu have proven their commitment to bringing you great gameplay from a site you can trust, swcpoker.eu. They have lots of new games too, including Chinese poker, and their Krill leaderboard is open right now. It's a beautiful site, easy to use with lots of players. Go on over to swcpoker.eu now and have some fun with your Bitcoin. swcpoker.eu.
LRN.FM is proud to announce our official listening apps for Android and iOS devices. Now you can easily tune into our streams anywhere, anytime on your smartphone or tablet. Just visit apps.lrn.fm or search for LRN.FM in the Android or Apple app stores. Please download, rate it 5 stars, then share the link on social media, and let your friends and family know how you're listening to LRN.FM. Download it now, free at apps.lrn.fm. That's apps.lrn.fm.
What if the key to achieving liberty in your lifetime was to move together with others who think like you? Liberty activists are joining the Free State Project, which is over 85% of the way to its goal of 20,000 participants. And they're already making the move to New Hampshire. The successes are piling up and are proving the Free State Project is a real movement and no longer just a great idea. When you're planning your move, consider Keene. Keene is famous for its civil disobedience and non-cooperation, and there's plenty of political opportunity as well. If you're a regular reader of freekeene.com, you know there's a lot going on in Keene. Keene is the liberty media capital of the world, with television, talk radio, and more, all originating here. Though it's more than just activism, with regular social events each week. See what's happening at freekeene.com and get connected with video, audio, free books, a forum, and activist tools you can download and use in your area at freekeene.com. That's freekeene.com.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
It's Free Talk Live, and you're invited here. You can join us toll free, 855-450-FREE. We are talking about the somewhat esoteric discussion surrounding property rights and what that means for immigration. What would it be like if we actually didn't have government land, where everything was privately owned? How would that change the immigration scene in the United States? And I'm fine with whatever that situation becomes. You know, if we can actually get there from here, from this place where we have all this government property to a place where there is no government property and it's all privately owned, what would that look like for immigration? Well, whatever it is what it should look like. Now, we don't know exactly how it would end up panning out because we've never had a world like that in which to live. Lew Rockwell, however, over at LewRockwell.com, is sounding awfully cautious around the idea of immigration in the meantime. So while we both may want to go toward the same ends, Meaning that, and I want to say we both, I mean me and Lew Rockwell, and I don't know what, where you guys fall on this. We can flesh that out here in a moment. But we want to go towards that same ends of private property, where private property owners make decisions about who can come on it. People from all around the world. Maybe I want to allow all of them to come on a big plot of land that I own. Or maybe I want to allow no one, not even my next door neighbor, to come on. Okay, I should be able to make that decision as a private property owner. So on that much, I think I can say we agree with Lew Rockwell. We all want to go to that world, right?
Yes.
So it's the question of, well, what about the meantime? And that's where Lew Rockwell is sounding like he wants to lock things down. He's not coming right out and saying.
Paul sounds too. This is basically where he comes down on the issue is that until we get a more free society, we need to not allow immigration, essentially.
Well, wait, aren't immigrants forced to pay taxes anyway? I mean, everything they spend every time they
lots of them
money,
pay taxes that they don't actually collect.
They never get any benefits from.
Right.
So
well, they certainly sales tax.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, and the rents they're paying, that's property taxes kind of
Absolutely.
by proxy. My rent, I pay rent, and I'm still paying property taxes.
In many cases, they'll use illegal immigrants will use a fake Social Security number, pay.
They'll never get to see that money.
Yeah, what they call the what is that income? Not income tax. The weekly tax you pay on your paycheck. It's
I don't know. I don't pay those taxes.
Yeah, well,
the FICA.
You're asking the wrong guy.
It's withholding. They pay their withholding tax or whatever it is, and that which then goes to income. But then they don't get the return. They don't file for it since it's a fake Social Security number.
They're just paying in.
So some pay more than they would otherwise.
So let me get
and
to
some work under the table and don't pay that at all.
Let me get you more of Lew Rockwell here. We're nearing the end of his fairly lengthy and detailed piece over at LewRockwell.com. So he says, to be sure, it's fashionable in the U.S. to laugh at words of caution about mass immigration. Why people made predictions about previous waves of immigration were told, and we all know those didn't come true.
Right, the Irish staying off the grass, for instance, and Rockwell and the anarcho-Catholic mafia over there at the Mises Institute they ought to know something about that.
Now, for one thing, those waves were all followed by swift and substantial immigration reductions, during which time society adapted to these pre-welfare state population movements. There's virtually no prospect of any such reductions today. For another, it's a fallacy to claim that because some people incorrectly predicted a particular outcome at a particular time, therefore that outcome is impossible, and anyone issuing words of caution about it is a contemptible fool. The fact is, says Rockwell, politically enforced multiculturalism has an exceptionally poor track record. The 20th century affords failure after predictable failure, whether it's Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, the Soviet Union, or Pakistan and Bangladesh, or Malaysia and Singapore, or the countless places with ethnic and religious divides that have not yet been resolved to this day.
In many cases, what that is that some more powerful country coming in and drawing a circle or a polygon around two groups of people and saying you're going to live together. That's different than a group of people coming in and
finding a place to live.
Assimilating. Now, I think that there's a pretty good argument to be had that, look, there's a cap on the percentage of people that you can let in a given country from a given place at a given time and expect assimilation, right? So if, for instance, 1 billion Chinese people came to the United States today, right? Like, okay, send all the ships we have. In the next year, we can move 1 billion people. I don't know, maybe they could do it. Move 1 billion people from China to the United States. Would that affect U.S. culture to the point that it would essentially, destroy, sounds like a strong word, eliminate U.S. culture as it exists today?
Well, they'd have to go and build new cities. I mean, with that many people coming all at once, which of course is entirely unrealistic and a ridiculous what-if scenario.
I think all of us that were here first would be ridiculously rich.
Well, that's just it.
I would make so much money on that.
Construction business would be booming in that case because right now there's only so many places for rent and for sale in the United States. So those places would get snatched up. The prices would skyrocket. Most of these immigrants wouldn't have enough money to buy those places. So they'd have to go out and start, shanty towns or whatever, new cities in the middle of nowhere or outside of existing locations.
And they would probably not speak English. So they would be putting up signs in, Cantonese or Mandarin or whatever they'd be putting them up in. And so there'd be a certain level of confusion there. I'm just saying
that sounds fine to me.
If Americans were outnumbered 3-1 by Chinese inside of this landmass known as the 48 contiguous states of the United States of America, that this is what the culture conservatives are worried about.
I understand that.
How much immigration is acceptable, and I don't know the answer to that. What I'm saying is that we have a concentration of wealth in the United States, the area known as the United States, because of military power. That wealth would be distributed to not different people necessarily, but different areas and land masses, and that people wouldn't be attracted here if it wasn't for borders as they exist today. So states are the problem. What is the solution?
Not more government, I can tell you that. Look, I'm not afraid of the idea of people coming here and having an area that they don't speak English. We already have that. Chinatown.
Chinatown. There is, to some extent, Little Italy's there were. There's Little Havana down in Miami.
What is American culture at this point? I mean,
a hodgepodge of the world.
It is a hodgepodge.
Like, we don't really have an American culture, even though we claim we do. It's a big.
We have something. So what is it?
Each person has their own things they're involved in. They're different.
I get that, Ian, but there's a similarity that's going on.
Really? There's huge differences between like the Northeast and the South, and there's like different countries here. Yeah, there's a lot of differences between Florida and New England.
Look,
I mean, they even talk different up here.
I've been to Florida and I've been to Belize.
Yeah.
And Belize is significantly different than Florida or New Hampshire.
Okay.
So
I'm not saying there aren't.
I mean, we're not ridiculous
That's an English-speaking
to think
country.
that if a bunch of immigrants came over at the same time, that there wouldn't be some massive changes culturally. But really, I mean, we're an evolving people. It's going to happen. Why are we so scared of losing?
Yeah, I'm not scared.
And it's the culture too. So, you need to ask yourself, are there more successful and less successful cultures?
I mean, to me,
depends on how you measure it.
Well, that really is
what
it
about
comes
wealth?
down to.
Are you talking about income?
Success,
because
civilization.
Some people would say, well, right, but you value civilization or what your belief of civilization is.
I value
the people who live in the jungle value the simplicity of life.
You think?
Perhaps.
Yeah,
maybe they do. Maybe they just have no other options.
I don't know. The Tibetan monks seem pretty darn happy, and they don't own anything.
Right.
It depends on which.
So from your perspective, that's not a desirable life.
You.
But from their perspective, they certainly know. Most of them have encountered, white man or whoever's come around to try to push their Christianity or their civilization, if you will, on them, and they've rejected it.
Many of their
because
kids
they
are
want
leaving.
things the way they are.
Many of their kids are leaving because of those very reasons, right? Like they want a better life. Say, for instance, the wheel is something that they think is a good idea. Oh, this whole electricity thing's awesome.
You can look down your nose at those folks if you want.
I'm not looking down my nose.
They would say they're better in touch with nature and the earth, for instance. Perhaps I'm speculating here. I
mean, I get his point.
Staphylococcus infections.
How do you say one society's better than another in a sense? I get what's important.
I can. I will.
Comfort-wise,
but it's all subjective, Mark. You can't say
society.
there's any objective measure of this. It's
if people
want
to come to a place that there's an indication that the culture in that place is a good thing. If they want to change it, it's an indication of a stupid person.
Just because you don't want to move into the woods doesn't mean that and live, the rough life doesn't mean that that's a poor idea for some people.
They should be able to do that.
Is Free Talk Live, 855-450-FREE.
Dr. Ngozi Obi is an emerging American author of Nigerian descent who's published 2 novels with an inspirational message. A third is in the works. Her first novel, Love's Destiny, follows Naira, a somewhat naive young woman, in a gripping tale of love lost and found. Her second novel, When Dreams and Visions Collide, follows Fern and friends as they discover what it takes to realize a dream and the true meaning of unconditional love. Dr. Obi's books are available where books are sold and ladyofdestiny.com.
You can control your health care with Liberty Health Share.
Liberty Health Share is like-minded people coming together to share medical costs, which saves money.
You don't even have to pay for procedures that violate your conscience.
Because we all share the same values.
Join the movement of people who share in medical costs and change the way you pay for your health care forever.
Go to libertyhealthshare.org to find out more.
Liberty Health Share.
Together, we're changing healthcare for good. libertyhealthshare.org.
So you've got to take a state construction license exam or certification. Can't decide on what books or what chapters to study? Discover right now how you can eliminate unnecessary books and wasted study time. At contractorexam.com, our study materials zero in on state-required test topics in an effective, multiple-choice format. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, general contractor, or other construction-related trade, contractorexam.com will help get you prepared. Visit us at www.contractorexam.com today.
I want to be able to smoke inside, cut down on cigarettes, jog without wheezing, be kissable, and save money.
Then you want Le Sig e-cigarettes. Get the highest quality, best tasting vaping experience on the market with unmatched customer service from Le Sig. And right now, gobble up this deal. Buy $30 worth of any products and get a starter kit for only $5. Use code SK at checkout. But hurry, offer good only until Thanksgiving at lesig.com. LECIG.com. Kick some ash with Le Sig.
Since time began, tyrants have taken aim at personal liberties. Now there's a movie that aims back.
The government has no more right to tell us what to put in our bodies than they have to take our guns or tell us what books we can read.
6 drug police were eaten by bears while raiding a marijuana farm.
On your knees, you dirty hippie! Jesus. On your knees! What's the problem, officer?
Today, many cops who enforce pot laws do so only because it provides them with cushy jobs, good benefits, and a chance to push people around.
I was an undercover narcotics officer. The drug war is nothing but a farce.
The Second Amendment says you gotta keep you and your gat intact.
Guns and Weed, The Road to Freedom. A film by Michael W. Dean and Nima Vadati.
DVD available now at gunsandweed.com or on Amazon. That's gunsandweed.com. Makes the perfect gift. Remember, that's gunsandweed.com.
The 3 most important things you can do for Free Talk Live are: 1. Share 1 episode a week on Facebook or in some other social networking site. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.freetalklive.com. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program. You likely buy all kinds of things online. Amazon is the largest online retailer. You can get what you need at the same prices with free Super Saver shipping by going to shop.freetalklive.com. Please do your online shopping at shop.freetalklive.com.
This is your Roberts & Roberts Brokerage Daily Precious Metals Update. In early trading Wednesday, gold is down $1.50 at $1,069 per ounce. Silver is down 9 cents at $14.16 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at $333 US. Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been buying and selling precious metals since 1977. For more information, give us a call at 800-874-9760 or visit us online at rrbi.co.
While our satellite channel is free to listen to, it's not free for us. You can help us cover our satellite costs with the chip-in on the right side of the page at lrn.fm.
Oh yeah, it's Free Talk Live, and you can join us here toll-free. Our number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We're going to go to your calls and thoughts. Also, a little bit more from LewRockwell.com. He is reassessing the issue of open borders from what he believes is a libertarian perspective. And this is definitely an issue on which people have very, very strong feelings. So we're going to go to your calls here. Let's go first to David on the line in Arizona. Hello, David. You're on via Skype.
Hello, Ian and Mark. I like your topic tonight.
Welcome, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was listening to this topic on my phone, and I came home quickly, got on Skype. I just finished writing a book that's on this exact same issue, not immigration in general, but this Hoppian, Rothbardian position on immigration. I spent the last 6 months, I just finished this book 2 days ago, just put it up on Amazon, and it's always kind of bothered me. I've always liked everything that Rothbard wrote and that Hopper wrote, and Lew Rockwell's a good friend of mine, so when I address this issue, I'm speaking, as Lew said, he doesn't claim any originality on this, that this comes from other people, Hans Hermann Hoppe and Murray Rothbard, that basically came up with this position. The main Flaw, if I could sum it up, that I think is a non-libertarian and a non-Austrian economics position that Hoppe and Rothbard have, is that they assume that group action is valid and that action by nations is valid, that actions by society is valid. And in other writings, Hoppe contradicts this. I'm looking right now here from a quote that he says, any talk about society is meaningless, only individuals act. And they jump from that to a conclusion that a whole nation can have an opinion and decide to exclude entire nationalities of foreigners in entering that nation. And of course, I believe that an individual private property owner can exclude anybody they want from their own property. But when you get into talking about a whole nation and the validity of excluding everybody from a whole nation of a certain nationality, like let's say Mexicans or Guatemalans, if you want to exclude all Mexicans from coming in to say this country, the United States, you would have to get consensus from everybody in this country to validate that opinion. And Hoppe tries to get that consensus through different arguments. It's kind of a hodgepodge of arguments. One of them is the roads, which you already covered, the commons, the publicly owned commons. And then he says the rightful owners would be the tax expropriated victims who paid for those roads. And then this goes right back again to the society fallacy. He says those very tax expropriated victims should be able to decide as a group to exclude anybody coming in on those roads, which
But
goes
what
back
if you manage to pay for 1 gallon of gas that has gas tax and therefore pays for the roads as, say, an illegal foreigner? Do you then become a part owner in these roads?
Well, the problem is Hoppe uses the roads argument, the argument of the commons, to say that there are rightful people that belong in the nation that are the rightful owners, and those are the people that had taxes collected from them under the provisos of that particular nation, and that those people could act together to exclude whole groups of foreigners. Now, this goes against something else that Hoppe wrote. He wrote a great book called Democracy, the God That Failed. And in that book, he made the point that democracy is mob rule. You can't just get a partial consensus from a group of taxpayers that own the roads, that pay the taxes for the roads, and say, well, we have a majority that says they want to keep Mexicans out. Well, what about the minority that wants to let Mexicans in? You're back to mob rule. You're back to democracy.
Right. And a republic supposedly is a place that respects the rights of the individual. And I, as an individual, want to allow people to come here, but I'm prohibited from doing that.
Exactly. Let me, in this book I wrote, I'm going to read you a great passage by another Austrian economist, Robert Higgs, who disagrees with Hoppe's position and Rothbard's position by this. He says, this is from a recent Facebook post he made, with free entry by immigrants, I would be fully as justified and able to forbid their entry into my home as I am able to forbid the entry of U.S. citizens. But I do not own your home, and should you wish to invite Albanians, Mongolians, or Siberians into your home, it is none of my business, and it would be an act of sheer impudence for me or my alleged agent, the government of the United States, to interfere with your hospitality. The analogy between one's home or other private property and the territory of the nation state is not simply overdrawn, but it is stupid. And then he says here, and equally stupid and utterly unworthy of anyone calling himself a libertarian, or even more so an anarchist, is the claim that until complete privatization is established over all property in the country, we can and we should, as a second best resort, we should support the U.S. or the state government's enforcement of exclusionary laws.
That seems to be what Rockwell is doing in this article. He doesn't come right out and say, go Border Patrol, but, I mean, it seems like the logical conclusion of saying that there should be some sort of control, right? He's not coming right out and admitting it, but...
I mean, how do you give specialty to one group of people over another? That's what I don't get.
Well, the problem
I'm allowed to have my immigrants over if I want, right? And you're allowed to keep them out.
Valid,
so how do you balance it?
for it to be valid for a whole nation to exclude, under a private property theory, for a whole nation to exclude a certain category of immigrants, there would have to be unanimity, meaning there couldn't be one dissenting person. Everybody in the whole United States would have to agree to exclude Mexicans or to exclude Syrians or whatever, in order for it to be a valid private property argument to say, yeah, you can't come here because it's my private property. Well, what if one person like Robert Higgs says, I may want to invite a Mexican onto my land in the United States? So how can, my alleged agent, the United States, claim the authority to keep me from inviting a foreigner onto my property?
So let me, I've got some thoughts here. Obviously, states as we know them are not going to disappear tomorrow. Humans, this organizational model that humans have gotten used to over the course of 9,000 years, or however long we think that this master-servant paradigm from which states have descended has existed. So states go to war with each other. I think a really good example is Japan and the United States and the Pacific theater of World War II. Would it have been anti-libertarian to exclude, say, armed Japanese between the years of 41 and 45 from crossing borders in the United States without some kind of resistance?
Well, once again, another big part of this is the whole be scared of the people that live on the other side of the hill. Be scared of them. That's how states have gotten legitimacy throughout the years, have tried to gain legitimacy as they get their court.
We'll protect you from the invaders.
Exactly. That's right. And, the only principled libertarian stance on this is to say, look, we don't want any state action of any kind to touch immigration or any other issue, to somehow validate state action in immigration when you reject it in any other area just, doesn't make sense. And, you're always going to have somebody saying that these people are a threat. These people are going to come over here and they're going to destroy our way of life. And that's another chapter in my book, is the cultural destruction fallacy, because that's another thing that Hoppe and Rothbard talk about, is they're going to destroy our culture. And I have a whole nother chapter on that.
This sounds like a great book. What's it called? And your name is apparently David Hathaway, correct?
That's correct. It's called Immigration, and the subtitle is Individual versus National Borders. Like, of course, I agree with individual borders around private property, but I don't think that we can legitimately conclude that national borders are something that would, that automatically would develop in a free society. And that's kind of Rothbard's position. He starts out legitimizing nations, the nation concept, and then Hoppe builds on that and turns it into, we can therefore exclude people outside the nation, and we can use force to exclude people outside the nation. And then they go into a secession argument to try to legitimize it, say if we are in favor of succeeding into smaller and smaller nation units, then we are allowed to use force along the way to keep people out of each one of those nation units. So my book has a chapter on each one of the fallacies raised by Hoppe and Rothbard. I call them fallacies. I spent the last 6 months going through this because it always bugged me. It didn't seem like a libertarian position.
Yeah, it seems like they're bending over backwards to make excuses for xenophobia. I mean, do you think either of these men were perhaps xenophobes or racists?
I don't know what their motives are, but it does seem like there's some other feeling behind this argument, because it's not a consistent argument.
Yeah,
most Austrian economics is praxeology, and it's built on axiomatic principles.
Is your book out right now, David? Can people order it?
Yeah, it just came out 2 days ago on Amazon in both print and Kindle editions. And a matter of fact, you can read
David.
it for free.
It's Free Talk Live.
Are your kids spending too much time online? Are they gaming instead of doing homework? Are they on Facebook instead of sleeping? Turn their internet access on or off when you want for free at webcurfew.com. 100% web-based interface means nothing to download, install, or configure. Web Curfew is free and controls any device using your home network without slowing down your internet. Block all adult web content with the click of a button. Don't let the internet raise your kids. Take back control of how and when your home internet is used for free. Visit webcurfew.com.
As a pioneer of the e-commerce movement, Overstock.com is proud to be the first major retailer to accept Bitcoin. Overstock was the first because Patrick Byrne, Overstock's CEO and founder, firmly believes in personal freedom and cryptocurrency. Over the past 16 years, Overstock has furnished over 18 million homes with a diverse line of products to suit everyone's unique styles and preferences. Support Overstock and freedom of choice while enjoying free shipping on orders of 0.211 Bitcoin or more.
There comes a time when you need custom embroidered or screen printed apparel for your business, organization, or a special event. Corporate Casuals has been helping people create great looking logoed apparel for over 25 years. They can produce a single piece or thousands using name brand apparel like Nike, Patagonia, Adidas, and Hanes. Create your logo in their online embroidery design studio or upload your existing logo and they'll turn it into embroidery. Go to corporatecasuals.com/FTL and include FTL in the order notes and save 5% on your order.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com. You can get emailed announcements and participate in contests via our email updates list. Plus, we have a Twitter account that you can follow and a Facebook page where you can become a fan. So visit news.freetalklive.com to get news about Free Talk Live as soon as it's announced and the way you want it delivered at news.freetalklive.com. That's news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Wednesday, November 18th, 2015. Silver is trading at $14.10 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,069 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $336. Antiwar.com reports pro-Saudi Yemeni President Abdurabu Mansour Hadi has once again returned to the southern city of Aden, his temporary capital, and his office says he intends to oversee the military offensive against Taiz following weeks of predicted victory in the area. Despite continued claims of progress in the Taiz offensive, the city and surrounding province remains disputed, and again, heavy fighting left 53 people killed, including 8 civilians, 25 pro-Hadi fighters, and 20 pro-Houthi fighters. Several airstrikes were reported on Tuesday. The Houthis were mostly killed in airstrikes, as were the civilians, while the Hadi fighters, dubbed mercenaries by pro-Houthi outlets, were killed in an ambush at one of their military camps by Houthi forces backed by the Yemeni military. The camp was apparently set as a trap with explosives planted around the area and tents abandoned. They quickly moved against the invading Hadi forces, detonating explosives and quickly routing them. Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system and to fully capitalize on that decision in their fundraising efforts. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com. UPI reports Senator Ted Cruz from Texas said he plans to draft legislation barring Syrian Muslim refugees from entering the United States amid reports that one of the attackers in Paris may have posed as a migrant. While campaigning in Charleston, South Carolina on Monday, the Republican presidential candidate restated his belief that Muslim refugees should settle in primarily Muslim countries, while Syrian Christians should be welcome in the United States. He said the Christian refugees pose no meaningful risk of committing acts of terrorism. Cruz offered no specifics or timetable for his plans to introduce the legislation in Congress. His comments came in the wake of shootings and explosions last week in Paris, for which the Islamic State has claimed responsibility. The attacks Friday killed at least 129 people and reawakened a global urgency to stop terrorism. Speaking on Monday at the G20 summit in Antalya, Turkey, President Obama said allowing migrants into the United States based on their religion was shameful. Since the incident in Paris, 27 governors of U.S. states have declared their opposition to settling Syrian refugees in their states. All but one of the governors are Republican. Alabama Governor Robert Bentley was one of the first to make such an announcement on Sunday. Other governors used social media or formal letters to the White House to make their position clear. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. Reuters reports Seattle Mayor Ed Murray signed an ordinance into law on Tuesday that he says will add 6,000 living units for low-income residents over the next decade to be paid for by fees on private developers. The measure aims to address an overheated real estate market fueled partly by the growth of Seattle-based internet retailer Amazon.com and other companies, which is pricing out low- and middle-income residents. The new ordinance, part of a set of proposals that could add 20,000 units of affordable housing over 10 years, will provide 6,000 units paid for by private residential and commercial developers, according to the mayor. The law imposes a special fee on commercial development ranging from $5 to $17 per square foot based on a building size and location. A separate resolution passed by the city council requires up to 8% of multifamily dwellings to be set aside for residents earning no more than 60% of the area's median income. Alternatively, developers could pay a fee to help finance off-site affordable housing. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
A job applicant totally nails an interview with the person who will make his life a living hell for the next 5 years. And adjusting several sliders on a recording studio's mixing console pays off big time. This is the Onion Week in Review. This week, a study published by researchers at Johns Hopkins University revealed a direct correlation between breastfeeding and knowing exactly what's best for other people at all times. Overwhelming evidence indicated that the moment mothers begin breastfeeding, they develop a highly honed sense of what is wrong with others' approach to life, and were able to loudly enumerate those faults with total confidence in their accuracy. Researchers noted that the practice greatly boosted a young mother's immunity to the viewpoints of others. And in this week's Tech Report, a startup is very casual about its dress code and benefits. In other news, the Secretary of Interior says knocking down the Rocky Mountains could really open up the nation. And a woman is not going to let her husband of 60 years drag her into death at the same time.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here toll-free. Bring up whatever you want. Our number is 855-450-FREE. It's been property rights and immigration. That's sort of been the overarching topics for the show here tonight. Of course, you can take control of these airwaves. And with you in the studio, it's Ian,
Tarrin, Lupo,
and Mark.
And, of course, you can join us on Skype as well. We've actually had quite a few Skype calls tonight. Skype username LRN.FM, or if you want to call on the old phone lines, you can do that too. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We go to Dark Dog, calling from Flint, Michigan on Skype. Hello, Dark Dog.
How you doing?
Hey, what's on your mind tonight?
Yeah, I've been listening to you guys for about 10 years at least.
Thanks.
Yeah, so, last August, you had a guy that you interviewed, Dr. Ed Gogic, on marijuana criminalization.
Yeah, the guy who was like actually in favor of keeping marijuana illegal.
Yeah, I was really hoping you would lay into that guy, but y'all kind of let him slide a little bit.
I don't really feel like that was the case, but okay.
But there's a guy named Dr. Carl Hart. He was interviewed by Bill O'Reilly, and you can still see the video on YouTube.
Yeah, I love that guy, Carl Hart. He's the guy who did that study that we talked about with people in a hospital, crackheads and meth addicts, and they were given the opportunity to get a real nice hit of crack or meth, or to take $20 after like 3 weeks after the study was over. And this was a daily thing. They were offered
it'd
this.
Be that $20 would go to a tally that they would get when they left.
Yeah, they were offered a big crack rock every single day, basically, like the most pure lab quality, best quality crack or meth they could possibly get a hold of. That was Dr. Carl Hart, who I believe was involved in that.
What was the result of the study?
The result, it was fascinating. The result was that these people who apparently, had terrible lives and were essentially drowning their sorrows in drug use when they had something to look forward to, when they had an incentive, which was the money that they would collect at the end of the stay. They actually chose the money. So rather than go with the drug that they were purportedly physically addicted to, they chose to not take the drug and chose, I want that money. So you would think that the addict would have chosen the drug, but it was a very counterintuitive study, and the first one of that I've ever heard of like that. It was fascinating. That was Dr. Carl Hart, correct, Dark Dog?
Yeah, I believe that was, yes.
Yeah.
It would be nice if you could have him debate Ed Gogic on your show. That would be something awesome I would like to hear.
That would be the sort of thing for a podcast. The difficulty of debates on radio is commercial breaks. We might be able to do sort of one question per segment and then, give them five and give them five or something like that.
Honestly, the whole thing with that guy, that prohibitionist character, I think, Mark, we'd been pitched a book by that guy or something.
Of course, it's always a book.
And that's how he even came on our radar.
Hey.
It's always a book.
Yeah. And our opinion of it was just like, oh, we haven't had a statist on for a long time to talk to us. Let's do it. Let's do this. Yeah, we generally don't do that kind of thing at all. And I hesitate to give those people any additional publicity.
Yeah, I understand.
Better ideas should win in the long run, right?
Yeah, you're right. One more thing. Last year, you featured advertisement on your show about the latest novel in the Freehold series. You know what I'm talking about?
Was that Michael Z. Williamson?
I believe so.
Okay.
The first book in that series features a terrorist attack by the freeholders at the end of the book. I'm not going to say any more than that. But did you read that book?
I did. It's one of my favorites, and I think that people who are interested in the idea of the evolution of state governance models should take a look at it. What they do is he looks at a planet. Grenier or something like that is what he calls it, some Irish word, and what their government ends up being like, and he posits this sort of libertarian world and how it would fight back against a more powerful world Earth government. And sure, it was an awesome novel. It's well written, and frankly, I love everything by him. But you got to kind of start with Freehold. It's the seminal novel.
Yeah, I enjoyed everything about that book until the end when they had that terrorist attack. I really can't, as a libertarian, I really can't see.
Well, is that author an actual libertarian, or does he just sort of have some libertarian themes?
He's
here
pretty darned libertarian.
He's pretty libertarian as far as I could determine from the book.
It was a war, and he's certainly a military guy, right? And so at some point or another, everybody slips into collectivism. And, for him, it's like, okay, well, at this point, this planet's at war with that planet. And we don't have the weapons that they have. We don't have the highly developed weapons. And that's kind of what governments specialize in. So they had to fight back in the way that they had to fight back, which is, guile and terrorism.
Thanks, Dark Dog. Appreciate your call tonight. Our toll-free number for you is 855-450-FREE if you want to join us, or like Dark Dog did, you can call on Skype. Skype username's LRN.FM. Let's go back to Lew Rockwell. He's going to justify his position here, which sounds like he's in favor of restricting immigration while the government is around until someday we get to this wonderful utopia of not having a government property anywhere. Let's go on here. He's talking about different places where people don't get along with one another. And he says, or the countless places with ethnic and religious divides that have not yet been resolved to this day. The evidence suggests something rather different from the tale of universal brotherhood that is such a staple of leftist folklore. No doubt some of the new arrivals will be perfectly decent people, despite the U.S. government's lack of interest in encouraging immigration among the skilled and capable. But some will not. The three great crime waves in U.S. history, which began in 1850, 1900, and 1960, coincided with periods of mass immigration.
1850.
1900.
1900.
And 1960, he said.
1960, all right.
Crime isn't the only reason many people may legitimately wish to resist mass immigration. If 4 million Americans showed up in Singapore, that country's culture and society would be changed forever. And no, it's not true that libertarianism would, in that case, require the people of Singapore to shrug their shoulders and say it was nice having our society while it lasted, but all good things must come to an end. No one in Singapore would want that outcome, and in a free society, they would actively prevent it. In other words, it's bad enough we have to be looted, spied on, and kicked around by the state. Should we also have to pay for the privilege of cultural destructionism, an outcome the vast majority of the state's tax-paying subjects do not want and would actively prevent if they lived in a free society and were allowed to do so? So this is that fear-mongering aspect of the boogeyman immigrants are going to come in and change our culture. Well, he sounds like Michael Savage.
Okay, so I think the culture argument, it has some legs. I'm not claiming it has all the legs, but I'm saying, okay, is there such thing as a culture? And obviously they're ever-changing, but they tend to change slowly as opposed to quickly. And if so, are there cultures that are of more value and cultures that are of less value? I say
it depends.
Yes, from my standpoint.
From your standpoint.
If you want to see, if you want to see innovation and these sorts of things, you need to go with the innovation culture. If you want to, stare nature in the face, then you need to go to the more natural cultures.
Go to Appalachia.
Appalachia is by no means. They got televisions there. I'll tell you what. Go to New Guinea. You want to rewild yourself? Get over there and get yourself some of that.
The very cultures this is Lew Rockwell again. The very cultures that the incoming migrants are said to enrich us with could not have developed had they been constantly bombarded with waves of immigration by peoples of radically different cultures. So the multicultural argument doesn't even make sense. He says it's impossible.
Well, see, now this is the same sort of goal. Okay. The question is, how much immigration as a percentage of the population can a culture handle, and from where? Like, there's diversity, right? So say, for instance, there's a difference between 4 million Americans moving to Singapore and destroying their culture than 4 million people equally selected from every geographic point around the globe. At that point, Singaporean culture is much more likely to survive in some form because, nobody's usurping it.
Let's talk more about the culture aspect of this, and then there's just a few more sentences from Lew Rockwell to wrap up his thoughts on the issue. Toll-free number 855-450-FREE, 855-450-3733. What would happen with your culture, whatever that is, with so-called unrestricted immigration? It's Free Talk Live.
I'm Steve Sidkowski, a former Wall Street insider. Right now, I'm holding a book that could change your life. It will show you investing strategies which could help you earn the kind of money you've always dreamed about. And right now, I'm giving this book away for free. So who needs to read it? If you're in the middle of your career and you worry you'll never have enough money to retire, you need to read this book. If you're already retired and your income isn't enough, you need to read this book. And if you don't want to be selling burgers at the age of 80, well, you need to read this free book. The reality is, you'll need at least $1 million to ever fully retire. If you're behind on that goal, you really need to read Trade Like the Pros. And you can for free by calling 1-800-505-6991. Are you skeptical that it will deliver results? It's a free book, so what do you have to lose? Find out how at 1-800-505-6991. That's 1-800-505-6991. 1-800-505-6991.
My name is Bill Bonner, and I have an important message. Right now, the highest levels of government are struggling against an inevitable crisis, but they're about to lose control. When this happens, it will rip our country apart in ways you never imagined. From where we shop to the family you want to protect. Look, I've made predictions like this before. A few years ago, I warned that the housing prices would collapse. Before that, I warned that .com companies would crash, and they did. Those who listened had a chance to save themselves. But this has nothing to do with the stock market. This will affect us all. I've posted a free video at disappearingwealth.com. Maybe you'll disagree with my conclusions, but first you need to watch this video and see the facts for yourself. You can watch the video for free right now by going to disappearingwealth.com. Again, that's disappearingwealth.com.
Hi, I'm Montel Williams. Most of you know me as a talk show host, but I'm also an author, actor, single father of 4, a fitness writer, avid snowboarder, and I'm also a medical marijuana patient. Like many of the million people who are living with multiple sclerosis, I'm in pain every single day. And sometimes my nerves are so raw that if you brushed up against me in an elevator, I'd scream. I can't sleep at night from the pain, and sometimes the spasms in my legs are so intense they will wake me up throughout the night. I've tried the strongest prescription medications available, and I'm going to tell you, they do not work. In fact, they leave me in a stupor, and most of the time, it's impossible to even live your life. Now, I've tried medical marijuana, and I'm going to tell you something, it works. If you'd like more information about medical marijuana, you can contact the Marijuana Policy Project at mpp.org or call 1-877-JOIN-MPP.
Here's a chance to do a little activism while you're cruising Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Between the LOL cats, the recipes, the hot girls, and the inspirational sunrise memes, Free Talk Live's posts pass by your newsfeed. Like them, comment. It gives us more exposure. If you don't see our posts, click like at facebook.freetalklive.com and then hover over it to click Get Notifications. It's an easy way to spread the ideas of liberty a bit further. I know you're busy, but you can spare that 1/10 of a calorie it takes to click on something. facebook.freetalklive.com.
Cryptocurrency and peer-to-peer tech developments happen fast. Stay in the loop with the Daily Decrypt, a new video channel and podcast that will keep you on top of the latest innovations in crypto finance, security, networking, transportation, and gadgetry like drones and 3D printers. Subscribe to the Daily Decrypt on YouTube and SoundCloud and be an early adopter of the future. The Daily Decrypt.
Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live, and you're invited here to join us toll-free at 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Are you scared that your culture's going to be ruined by them immigrants? That's what it sounds like Lew Rockwell's saying over at his fairly lengthy and detailed piece, where he is taking the side of a couple of old-school libertarian thinkers, Murray Rothbard and Hans Hermann Hoppe, who apparently thought that, well, we don't have true private property rights here in America, so until then, we ought to have restrictions on immigration. And that means government. That means the government restricting people. That means the Border Patrol restricting, checking papers, putting up checkpoints. That means whatever the government decides it means, because you don't get to decide.
Nope.
You either support what they're doing or you oppose it. And as a libertarian, I think you have to oppose the government cracking down on the freedom to travel. Yeah, it may be non-perfect to have people coming here who some might be attracted by some welfare programs. But I'd rather have that than have a police state, if that's what I get to choose from.
I would also point out that if people are attracted here by welfare programs, and I don't support them either, and I've got a proposal called the Blue Card program. That if they're attracted by that, it'll put downward pressure on welfare programs, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I guess it would.
If a bunch of people would come here and sign up for the welfare programs, essentially it would be like, oh, well, this is getting really expensive. Maybe we need to reassess it. They reassessed it in the 90s, and they could reassess it today. I frankly don't believe that anybody any U.S. citizen should be responsible for paying for, somebody who comes here to work for a better life to be to pay for their schooling or their food or their shelter or God knows what else.
I think your ideas of the blue card's pretty cool, and I wondered if you would allow other people to jump in on that. Like, I would love a card that says, okay, I won't use government services, but I'm not paying jack anymore.
Yeah, there's I think that anybody should be able to sign up for it, whether they're a U.S. citizen or not, and that would be interesting.
I've already signed up for it.
Is it a real thing?
No.
Oh.
The question is what taxes would be exempt and what wouldn't is basically what it comes down to. Is if you're over here working I don't think you should have to pay taxes.
Well, this is a federal program, right? The blue card, this idea of the card that would opt you out of government benefits, but you don't have to pay into the taxes, and that would include any immigrants, right? That's the idea?
Yeah, I think so. And
federal.
So, the question would somebody who comes here, comes here to work, would they be in some way responsible or indebted to the U.S. military? And
God, I hope not.
I would say no, but not everybody would agree with me necessarily.
All right, a little bit more here from Lew Rockwell, then right to your phone calls and thoughts. From LewRockwell.com, he wraps up his piece by saying it's impossible to believe that the U.S. or Europe will be a freer place after several more decades of uninterrupted mass immigration. Given the immigration patterns that the U.S. and EU governments encourage, the long-term result will be to make the constituencies for continued government growth so large as to be practically unstoppable. But wait a minute. Immigrants can't vote legally. So if the government's getting bigger, isn't it because of the government and the people who are voting for it?
Okay, so there's 2 points regarding this. I think that many Republicans oppose immigration because they see the immigrants as likely Democrats. And I'm a Republican, and I say that there's some validity to this. However, there's a counter argument. So let's consider for a second, if the immigrants coming here were likely to be Republican voters, you can believe Hillary Clinton would be out there with a sniper rifle taking them out at the border, right? I mean, that's how it would be. It would suddenly change sides. So this is a political battle, and people's lives are political footballs. Is that good, right, just, and fair? No. If you were born on the wrong side of the border, would you try to come to a better place and work for your family?
You're damn well right.
Does that make you a good person or a bad person?
That makes me a good person.
So a person that attempts to stand in your way from working, from going to a place where you can work for a living.
That's the bad guy.
I don't know what else to call them. So, but one thing that needs to be pointed out is in Texas, which is, it was Mexico at one point. Texas, Mexicans vote between 40 and 50% Republican. Republicans do have inroads and can communicate to Latin American immigrants if they don't make the Latin American immigrants think that they believe that they're the bad guy.
Right.
The reason that Republicans can't communicate to blacks very well in this country often is because the KKK votes Republican. And that's something that Republicans haven't been able to shed since the Dixiecrats came over in the 80s. And, well, it's something they need to move forward, and they're bad at that.
Rockwell finally says, open borders libertarians active at that time will scratch their heads and claim not to understand why their promotion of free markets is having so little success. Everyone else will know the answer. So that's his story over at LewRockwell.com, saying that if we just let all this uninterrupted mass immigration happen, which, by the way, isn't happening, there are all kinds of interruptions to immigration here. It's incredibly difficult to come into the United States, but he's still certainly not satisfied with even the amount of people that apparently are being let in. It sounds like Lew Rockwell wants to close the borders. He's not saying that openly in this article, but he's not saying he supports freedom to travel.
Well, there are things in between, and the question is, how many immigrants from what geographic locations would be sort of acceptable?
No, there's
to not
nothing in
destroy
between,
culture?
because to have a certain amount that's acceptable means you have to have measures to keep the others out, which means you have to have a police state. That's it.
Well, I would say that there's a percentage of people in a given geographic area that want so badly to go to someplace else that they will overcome certain obstacles.
Yeah.
Would you agree that there are people that have stayed in Mexico because going to the United States is difficult? That
Sure.
they would have to deal with the coyotes,
Yep.
or the Border Patrol or whatever they have to deal with. That
Yes, that's
would
true.
otherwise go to the United States.
Sure, and the more of a police state they create here, the more people are going to just stay home. They're not going to come.
Right. So this is the argument on the
And I
other
wouldn't
side.
blame 'em.
Yeah. This is the argument on the other side, and that's why they say we have to have a wall, because it won't stop everybody, but it'll stop more people.
Well, there's no real evidence that that's the case necessarily. They have tried walls, and people have been easily able to scale them or
A better wall.
dig underneath them.
Bigger walls.
Let's go to
wider walls.
Glenn is in Philly. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Glenn.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hi there.
Well, It still pertains. The mere fact that you engage in ad hominem and mockery doesn't make you correct, okay? There's a difference between raising the question of a legitimate problem and fear-mongering. Not all pointing out of problems is fear-mongering, okay? Did not the incursion of the white man on the shores of America irrevocably change the cultures of the indigenous inhabitants? Did not the incursion of the white men in Polynesia irrevocably change the culture of those indigenous inhabitants? Ask any Hawaiian how they feel about haoles, okay? Yes.
Are you saying that white people are dangerous?
I'm saying that the incursion of people of other cultures...
So what you're saying is you can't hold on to your own cultural values if different people are around you? We'll come back and discuss that here. 855-450-FREE, 855-450-3733. And I'll let Glenn respond. He's still with us.
Yes, please.
You can join us here as well. This is Free Talk Live. This is exactly what I wanted to focus on. It's Free Talk Live.
Are your Google search results killing you? Unflattering content in blogs, news articles, online reviews, social media, or other sources can jeopardize your reputation, your business, and your livelihood. Let Reputation.com help. Our patented technology will make the truth about you more visible while pushing down unwanted negative content. Improve your Google search results. Call Reputation.com at 1-800-831-0771 for a free consultation. That's 800-831-0771.
Just recently, we've witnessed some of the most catastrophic disasters in history. Be sure to prepare yourself with great-tasting, high-quality, GMO-free food that has a 25-year shelf life. Of course, we're talking about the foods from SurvivalFoodAlliance.com. And don't forget, the human body needs up to 3 quarts of water every day to remain healthy and hydrated. So check out our water bricks at SurvivalFoodAlliance.com. Go to SurvivalFoodAlliance.com or call 877-223-1776.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, add yourself to the Shire map at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the new Healing Our World is a great gift this Christmas for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
Listen to LRN.FM on any phone, anytime. 213-493-0309. That's 213-493-0309.
Hey, it's Free Talk Live, and you're invited to join us here toll free, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And Mark, tell me about Liberty Health Share.
Liberty Health Share is a health sharing organization. The people who are members of the Liberty Health Share, what they do is they share the healthcare costs over a group. Now, this is what insurance companies do, but they do it with a large corporate structure on top of it. And Liberty Health Share, that means, we don't have the cost overhead that insurance companies do. If you pay for your own insurance like I do, I think you should check it out. Because for my family, we were able to save, it was almost just a bit over half as much for Liberty Health Share. And we can choose our doctor, choose our hospital, and don't have to deal with all that other stuff. And it fulfills all the criteria of Obamacare. So check them out. It's worth the visit. Just go to joinlhs.com. Liberty Health Share. Joinlhs.com. And there's a telephone number, too, if you don't want to go to joinlhs.com. 800-722-8041. 800-722-8041.
All right, let's go back to Glenn in Philadelphia. Glenn, you had brought up examples of the white man coming over and ruining the Native American culture. You gave the example of Americans going into what was Polynesia, and then ruining the Polynesian culture. But at the same time, my question for you was, well, wait a minute. Are you saying that someone else being in the vicinity of you and your people with your culture somehow ruins your culture? Why can't you keep your values yours and those people can have their values theirs? I mean, there are still people who are Native Americans. They still have an Indian culture, and there are still, Native Hawaiianers who, have that culture. Isn't that the case?
Google the term refugees trash Europe and take a look at what the aftermath of what these migrants are doing.
It didn't answer my question. I don't know what your beliefs are, Glenn. Are you a religious man?
Yes.
Okay. So if somebody comes in who has a different religion than you, if somebody comes in who has different sexual proclivities than you, does that mean that all of a sudden you have to change your beliefs?
That's not the same as what's going on with the actual physical environs. Okay, you guys like private property. Okay, well, private property is predicated on the conceptual boundaries. If government ceased to exist tomorrow, how would you guarantee your property rights? If I employ your logic and say, oh well, I'm cold, I don't like it over here, I'm going to go camp on Mark's property and because his boundary. And you know what? It's a lot nicer in his house. And here I am.
Here's how you enforce it: the same way property rights have been enforced forever, with the threat of force.
Exactly. So, and it's the same thing. All boundaries are ultimately, enforced with force. Okay.
That's true.
So good luck with that in the event of civil disruption. Because
we don't have any problems with that in New Hampshire. Everybody's armed here. I don't know about Philly.
Hold on, I've got some things to say.
Hey, can you do me a favor and back off your phone? You're shouting so much, it's really distorting.
Okay. And you couldn't possibly be overwhelmed by a superior force of numbers or anything like that, right?
Well, I mean,
or a surprise attack. The point is.
Well, it ain't the U.S. military that's keeping them out because they're all over in the Middle East. So where's this surprise attack going to come from? Canada?
Actually, some of this has to do with things such as cultural values, okay? That when a relatively homogenous, group of people, this idea almost seems like you're saying that culture doesn't exist.
Well, I don't know.
That's not what I'm saying.
He's not saying that, and you didn't really address
You never
his
answered
issue.
my question.
Right, like you've skirted around, and now you're going on the attack again. But if you're going to attack that point, Glenn, then here's what I want to ask. I want to ask you, and I'm going to rephrase Ian's question for you. If you and your family pick up today and you move to Syria, the Middle East seems to be an issue for you. So you move to the Middle East. Is that going to affect your family's culture in a terrible way?
If I move to the Middle East?
Yeah, you and your family tomorrow. You get a job.
Is it going to affect their culture, not my culture?
I'm asking you. It's like what Ian's saying is the culture exists in your head. And wherever your head goes, that's where your culture goes. Will cultures change over time? Yes, they will. But he's saying, and I think that there's something to the argument, and I'm not defending his argument. I'm asking you to rebut it. He's saying that that your culture can exist alongside of an immigrant's culture.
Yeah, they can if they're not invasive. Okay, Islam has a goal of taking over the world. It is an inherently
Where is this goal stated?
An invasive culture, huh?
Where is this goal stated?
Fox News. Someone on Fox News said it. Thanks for the call, Glenn. I've heard enough of the shouting. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Mark, at Pork Fest the last few years, the Porcupine Freedom Festival, it's the yearly festival that the Free State Project throws in the northern White Mountains of New Hampshire. There are Muslims at that very festival. Only a few, but there are Muslims there. And I've never heard them say anything about wanting to force anyone to become a Muslim. They offer people food, and they have conversations with them, and they feed thousands of hungry mouths throughout the entire time that they're there at the Porcupine Freedom Festival. They're good neighbors, and they're kind, and they're courteous folks.
Yeah, I think that, so cultures have aspects. Some of those aspects look positive, and they look negative to people. I do think that cultures are generally invasive. So if you and I have different cultures, we live near each other, we're going to start adopting what we consider the good practices and rejecting what we consider the bad practices of our cultures, and we're going to homogenize over time.
Unless you want to keep yourself separate from those other people, in which case go get your gated neighborhood and get your culture on, man.
And
go to your church and don't let other people come in. Whatever.
As far as there's this media painting thing of refugees and Islam and all that stuff, and it's difficult to get past. Have the refugees left a bunch of trash? Sure, they were put in one little tiny area. People consume water bottles and stuff.
Have the people who've complained about that ever gone to a baseball game? Hello, have you ever been to a rock concert full of a bunch of white people from America?
What about that? Didn't you go to that one year, the one in the north of Tampa that was
that's
livestock?
Livestock. It's long gone. They stopped doing that years ago.
Yeah, but it was one of those
weekend-long festivals with a bunch of rock
farm
and roll.
or something.
Yeah, there's plenty of trash around there,
A bunch of young kids go in and destroy everything while running around naked and muddy.
That's just what it is, man. That's just how it goes. People are trashy sometimes when you get them in large groups. Hello?
When they don't have the same level of responsibility for property that they do at home.
Yeah.
They don't have to clean it up.
Let's go to Jake. He's in Connecticut. Jake, you're on Free Talk Live with Ian and Mark.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Welcome, sir.
So I kind of agree with you guys for the most part, but I do have a couple of small issues. First of all, I think that if the government's going to bring in these Syrian refugees, it's a problem because I think they're going to attempt to turn them into a permanent form of underclass, i.e. they're going to try to give them free housing, free food stamps, free everything. And I really believe that could really destroy the work ethic of even the best type of people.
Sure.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, my uncle worked, went into the Air Force for, I think it was 2 years or 4 years. I'm not entirely sure, but his claim was it almost destroyed him for real work.
Oh, it absolutely. I was in the military myself, and it absolutely almost did. It's a really terrible thing as far as work ethic goes. And my second quibble is that I think it is actually wrong for the government to be importing these people who, while I'm not saying they're terrorists, the potential is there that 0.11% or very minuscule number are actually ISIS members.
So what?
And if the government, well, here's my point. I have no problem with that, but if the government is actively disarming us at a state level, like I'm in Connecticut, I have to go through hoop after hoop to carry a pistol.
Get out of there.
Well, there's refugees. I can't wait to come to New Hampshire. I'm a Free State signer.
That's your problem solved right there.
Ian's solution.
Yeah, I know. I mean, but as people, we have the right to defend ourselves. And if the government's going to add a little bit of risk to our lives, they should make it easier for us to defend ourselves.
That'd be nice. I do agree with you. They should make it easier for you. Unfortunately, they're not going to, so you need to take steps, and it sounds like you've already got plans afoot. By the way, the Free State Project just today crossed to 89% of its goal of 20,000. More coming up on Free Talk Live.
You can control your health care with Liberty Health Share.
Liberty Health Share is like-minded people coming together to share medical costs, which saves money.
You don't even have to pay for procedures that violate your conscience.
Because we all share the same values.
Join the movement of people who share in medical costs and change the way you pay for your health care forever.
Go to libertyhealthshare.org to find out more.
Liberty Health Share.
Together, we're changing healthcare for good. libertyhealthshare.org.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the new Healing Our World is a great gift this Christmas for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
So you've got to take a state construction license exam or certification. Can't decide on what books or what chapters to study? Discover right now how you can eliminate unnecessary books and wasted study time. At contractorexam.com, our study materials zero in on state-required test topics in an effective, multiple-choice format. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, general contractor, or other construction-related trade, contractorexam.com will help get you prepared. Visit us at www.contractorexam.com today.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Does this ever happen to you? Moments after you're introduced to someone, you forget his or her name. It's a common faux pas you'll want to avoid, especially if you're a job seeker. And even if you're not, here's a tip. As you are being introduced, and while you're still shaking hands, smiling, and making eye contact, say the person's name aloud. Not only does that make a deposit in your memory bank, it acknowledges the other person. And that is more than a nuance, as is maintaining eye contact. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. Cutting through the clutter rather than blending into the blah, blah, blah will help you connect better no matter what the conversation. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
LRN.FM is proud to announce our official listening apps for Android and iOS devices. Now you can easily tune into our streams anywhere, anytime on your smartphone or tablet. Just visit apps.lrn.fm or search for LRN.FM in the Android or Apple app stores. Please download, rate it 5 stars, then share the link on social media, and let your friends and family know how you're listening to LRN.FM. Download it now, free at apps.lrn.fm. That's apps.lrn.fm.
As a pioneer of the e-commerce movement, Overstock.com is proud to be the first major retailer to accept Bitcoin. Overstock was the first because Patrick Byrne, Overstock's CEO and founder, firmly believes in personal freedom and cryptocurrency. Over the past 16 years, Overstock has furnished over 18 million homes with a diverse line of products to suit everyone's unique styles and preferences. Support Overstock and freedom of choice while enjoying free shipping on orders of 0.211 Bitcoin or more.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an amplifier at amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
At the PLC. 101. But there are different times. Oh, hey, the mics are on.
Oh, goodness.
We are professionals. Welcome to Free Talk Live. Yes, we were talking about Thanksgiving dinner, and I don't know if what you said about who was going to be attending the Thanksgiving dinner went out on the air, Mark. So
that'd be a secret, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, maybe it is.
Secrets are only as good as the microphones that are turned on, right?
All right. So, speaking of Thanksgiving dinner, obviously we're just about a week away from that. It is 1 week and 1 day from now, and the Liberty Movement here in New Hampshire, the Free State Project, which we were just talking with Jake about, and he's actually still on the line. I want to make sure he had a chance to get his thoughts out. The Free State Project is the idea of liberty-minded people moving to the same geographic area so we can be more effective together in doing our activism. But it's not all about activism. It's also about having a community of people who actually care about freedom and each other. And so part of that community involves socializing and, getting along and doing activities that are not action, not activist stuff, just fun stuff like, hiking and sports and whatever, knitting clubs, whatever it is that people do.
All those things.
Having Thanksgiving dinners is something that has been done here for a long time. And this is not uncommon for drifters, Thanksgivings, and things like that. People who don't know one another coming together and having Thanksgiving meals in all different parts of the United States. But here it's the activist community, and there are multiple Thanksgiving dinners that are happening all around New Hampshire that will attract people from their given areas to go to, which is great. So if you've moved here as part of the Free State Project, but you don't have a family that you brought with you, then there's always some place to go. So nobody has to be alone. You don't have to travel back. I mean, obviously, if you want to go back to where you're from and go to your, visit your family there, that's fine. But if you want to stay here, if you got to work or for whatever reason you don't care about your family, or you can't leave for whatever reason.
I mean, you either go or you don't.
Yeah, you got plenty of people here who want to get together. So we've got, I think there are going to be at least 2. Maybe even 3 Thanksgiving dinners happening in just the Keene area alone.
There are competing ones, and we have to decide where we're going to go.
Yeah, which is cool. So we've got that here. We've got a deep community that's only getting better as more people move. And as I mentioned, the Free State Project just today updated their Facebook profile. They've got the cover photo that says how much percentage towards the goal of 20,000 participants we have. It just ticked up from 88 to 89%, and it was within the last month that it went from 87 to 88. So I had looked over the last several months to see, when were the last times that the percentage moved up, and it was averaging about 1% per month. So now it's 1% in 3 weeks, and I'm hoping that we see more people coming in toward the end.
That's less than a year then.
If we keep the current rate, it's definitely going to be less than a year before we hit 20,000 participants, and that triggers the move. Now, Mark, you and I, we moved early. There are over 1,500 people that have moved early as part of the Free State Project, but the official move doesn't begin until we reach that 20,000 number. So if you've been sitting on the fence, if you've been waiting on the Free State...
how uncomfortable that can be.
No doubt. If you've been waiting on the Free State Project to reach its goal, we're almost there. It's going to happen. The question is, are you going to be a part of it? So we've got Jake on the line in Connecticut. He's frustrated by the gun restrictions down there in Connecticut, which are not getting better. They are getting more restrictive over time, and that is, I imagine, one of the reasons why you're considering making a move. Jake, I wanted to make sure you had a chance to get your thoughts out, so go ahead.
Absolutely. I really appreciate that, Ian. Yeah, I mean, the gun laws down here are ridiculous. I was part of the protest. I did everything I could do. And I've kind of given up on this state, sadly, and the time has come to. I've actively been preparing to move to New Hampshire, but there's a few hurdles I have to get over, such as selling my house and et cetera. So one thing, I actually had a question. I've been doing a little bit of activism, nothing compared to what you guys up in Keene are doing. I started a Facebook, just a meme page, where I've been trying to get a fan base going of just normal people, and then in the selection of things I post, there's always one little libertarian piece. And I'm hoping to just do a little bit to try to bring more people from the general population over to our little corner of the political universe.
I think it's a fine idea.
I was wondering what you guys thought of it. And do you know of a good place where I could pick up some really good libertarian content?
Free Talk Live's Facebook page. We've got an amazing... Yeah, I was going to say, we've got an amazing crew of volunteer listeners who just come up with some of the most creative stuff. They make memes that are original, basically, and they put them on the Free Talk Live Facebook page, and they get shared around, and some of them hit it big. So feel free to share whatever you want from our page. Is that what you're looking for, is like pre-made memes that you can share?
Yeah, I occasionally make it myself, but I mean, I'm not the most artistic person, so only once every couple of weeks do I think of something really good. But yeah, that's what I try to do, and obviously I try to.
If you get a good one, you should send it to me. We'll brand it with the Free Talk Live brand on it, and we'll share it far and wide. And then we'll take all the shares for ourselves, and we'll put a plug for your Facebook page on it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, my Facebook page is called Monday Morning Memes.
Oh, no. You got to give me the meme first, man.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no problem.
All right, bud.
Hey, thanks, Jake, and we'll look forward to seeing you in New Hampshire, hopefully sooner rather than later. I appreciate your call tonight. Let's talk to Ralph. He's in New Jersey. You're on Free Talk Live. Hey, Ralph.
This black mob take over of the
A black mob?
Yes, a takeover of the University of Missouri is an act of terrorism. It's predicated on a bogus claim of racism, which does not exist. They cannot.
You said, I'm sorry, it's sometimes it's hard to make out what you say. You said a black mob took over the University of Missouri?
That's right, okay? And it's about the bogus claim of racism, which does not exist. So therefore, if perception is reality.
Racism doesn't exist.
At the University of Missouri, he's claiming.
Where's the proof? Where's the proof? Where's the evidence? Huh?
Well, I don't know. There's plenty of racists out there.
You said systemic, endemic. Give us at least, chapter and verse. Where's the evidence that you can
I don't know. I don't go to that school. If there's thousands of people at a school, it's pretty much guaranteed some of them are going to be racist. Just statistically. Yeah, statistically.
This is now like a conscious thing all across the country, right? It's now a country of spreading. And as far as Obama is concerned, he's not necessarily an innocent bystander in all of this. He's complicit to all of this, okay? And this
Are you referring to the politically correct stuff that's been going on college campuses, or was there literally a mob of black people rioting or something at the Missouri State campus?
Well, whatever they're doing.
Well, it sounds like you might be exaggerating a little bit, Ralph. Is that possible that you're exaggerating when you say that? Because a mob indicates that there's some sort of violence going on usually.
The one thing I would not exaggerate to you, if you look at the news conference this man was doing overseas, the remaining time that he has, we give him, enough yard of proof.
If anything, Ralph, it seems like you might be a racist because you seem obsessed with it.
Oh, really?
I'm just saying.
Really? And you must be white guilty.
Ralph, don't you think that it's odd that you spend all your time talking about Obama and his color?
Yeah, I don't spend time talking about race, Ralph, only when people like you call in and bring it up. Then we have to address it.
It does not exist.
So I don't have any white guilt because I'm not obsessed with race. I think people are people. We're all human beings. We're individuals, and we need to judge people based on their individual traits and their beliefs and the words that come out of their mouths. Don't you agree with that, Ralph?
So, do I agree that the white guilt is,
we can't have a conversation if you can't even understand the question that I've asked you.
No, I do not agree with what you said.
You don't agree that people are just human beings and they should be judged individually?
Well, I believe in judging you according to your character, but that's not what's happening with Obama right now. Please.
It's all Obama.
Obama.
Are we going to even hear from Ralph if a Republican wins in 2016? Because I do enjoy your calls.
Who are you going
Ralph.
for, Ralph? Who's your man? Who's your person for?
Trump.
Shush! I want to hear.
Yeah, well, that's Trump, and I
does it bother you that he's slipping down the polls? I mean,
is he?
Did he peak already?
No.
He's going to come back.
This would be an easy. This would be an easy thing for him in New Hampshire and Iowa, I believe. Yes, I do believe that this would be an easy snatch for him, Iowa and New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire, at one point we caught him.
Easy snatch.
We caught him paying for people to come to his speeches. Back before he hit it big, he was actually paying crowd members.
They are getting paid to come in.
They were.
Yeah.
I think now he's gotten legitimately popular.
How come you never told me that?
Now you
I
know.
would have to go down.
Go look it up. The internet is available to us all.
Thank you, Ralph. We are out of time for you tonight, but I do enjoy Ralph's calls. I mean, I gotta say.
Some people do. Oh, ba, ma. He only did that one time.
No, he didn't. He did it more than once.
No, he goes, oh, ba, ba.
Oh, okay.
Right, it's a different cadence.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And now he goes, this man, this black man.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow night online. In the meantime, join us on our brand new redesigned website, freetalklive.com, and please amp the show at amp.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live.
Did you say that you prostituted yourself when you were 10 years old?
I was doing something of a sexual nature in return
Was that a
for.
woman or
It was a next door neighbor. He was probably around 16.
So he took advantage of you.
No, sir. He didn't take advantage of me.
He corrupted you morally.
No, sir. It was my choice to climb into his window. It was my choice, Lou. It was my choice to take my pants off and get into his bed. It was all my choice, Lou.
Listen to me, Ian. You do not have the right at the age of 10 to make that decision.
Don't you dare tell me what I can and can't do, Lou.
I'm telling you, he molested you.
No, Lou.
You don't even
Sorry,
realize
Lou, you don't understand what molestation is. Molestation is unwanted sexual advances. I consented. I know you'd believe that's possible. I know me better than you know me, Lou.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
This is your Robertson Roberts Brokerage Daily Precious Metals Update. In early trading Wednesday, gold is down $1.50 at $1,069 per ounce. Silver is down 9 cents at $14.16 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at $333 US. Robertson Roberts Brokerage has been buying and selling precious metals since 1977. For more information, give us a call at 800-874-9760 or visit us online at rrbi.co.
Free Talk Live has partnered with Amazon, the largest internet retailer. Imagine a department store category, and Amazon has it. Books, electronics, office products, furniture, jewelry, automotive, toys, clothing, sporting goods, and dozens of other categories. Now you can shop and support Free Talk Live by entering Amazon through our website. Go to shop.freetalklive.com, and Amazon will send us a portion of your purchase. You're going to do the shopping anyway, so remember to enter through our site at shop.freetalklive.com. That's shop.freetalklive.com.
Cop Block Radio is up next, live after the news on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Wednesday, November 18th, 2015. Silver is trading at $14.10 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,069 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $336. Antiwar.com reports pro-Saudi Yemeni President Abdurabu Mansour Hadi has once again returned to the southern city of Aden, his temporary capital, and his office says he intends to oversee the military offensive against Taiz following weeks of predicted victory in the area. Despite continued claims of progress in the Taiz offensive, the city and surrounding province remains disputed, and again, heavy fighting left 53 people killed, including 8 civilians, 25 pro-Hadi fighters, and 20 pro